Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Classic Quest podcast. This is the show where we go through the classic hip-hop albums, or at least perceived classics, and we go through them track by track, share our thoughts and our opinions on every single song. My name is Holden Stephan Roy.
I am your lady friend Bonnie.
And today we will be talking about Relapse by Eminem. That's right, we have an actual disc here for this one. Woo, exciting! So, yeah, we're going to go through the little intro bit now. If you want to check the description of the video, you will get a sense of the itinerary of the episode.
Yeah.
On that note, we like to let everybody know that we're not professionals. We're just people who started doing this one day and just keep doing it week over week. We look at this as an opportunity to learn, to grow, to study albums, just the art of the album, which is something that...
And to, fully listen and engage with an album and to, understand, a little bit more about it, by the end of it.
Which I think is significance, because in this era, a lot of people listen to singles. And while singles can give you a great experience, and when you're listening to the songs on your playlist of a gym and shit, chances are you're going to have your pre-selected songs to fit your vibes and stuff. But the idea of an album to me is more of a bigger concept or a bigger idea than the individual songs. And I think one of the things that makes Eminem truly brilliant, actually, and this album is a particularly interesting case study, is how to write an album. So I look forward to getting into that today, and that's just whatever, and it's all based on our opinions. And if you don't agree with something, or you do agree with something,
because essentially it's just art, right? So I mean, like you were saying, some people just look at, listen to singles. It's like looking at one painting by an artist when they have a whole collection out. And that, you should kind of take in the whole thing and kind of get the feeling for what they are trying to present, instead of just a little piece here and there.
And just keep in mind that especially with subjects like humor and satire keywords for this album,
yep.
Some people have different opinions, and you just may disagree with what I think, and that's totally fine. And I think there's just smarter ways to approach these conversations than maybe I've seen in the comments in the past. So I'm going to do my end to be proper, as respectful as I understand how to be with this shit. So I understand to some people this is going to be a 5 album, and to some people this is going to be a 1 album, so we'll get into that in a little bit.
Yeah, definitely mixed reviews.
Before we do, your comments are very, very important to us, and if you make that effort to leave a comment, we'll make an effort to respond to you. So on that note, our favorite comment on last week's review. What did we talk about last week, Bonnie?
Well, last week we did Dead Prez, Let's Get Free.
That shit was what, almost 3 hours long?
Yeah, and it was very dense.
Very a lot to say. So we're okay with going the long haul is what we're trying to say. But on that, Ismail Gadamsi left a fantastic comment in his concise way of speaking. The song Hip Hop proved that you can pass a message and have a party vibe at the same time. Because when you take maybe a party vibe like Party Up by DMX and you really listen to the lyrics, it's like, what's he actually saying here? Whereas something like, hip hop is still an equally dope ass party jam, but really questions
the lyrics are
what
really
gets
great.
you going. Anyway, fantastic comment, Ismail. I really enjoyed it. To me, it was very insightful and really, almost proves a bigger point. If you look for it, you'll find examples of things that meet your maybe specific criteria. Maybe you're like, I want a banging song that's also conscious. If you seek it, it's probably out there. Anyway, that's pretty cool. So we're going to get into this episode soon. I predict it's going to be long. Hopefully it's not too long. Special thanks to the patrons in advance. Ismail Gadamsi, same guy. Chris Prado, Jonathan Barnes, TJ Black, Hurricane, and Lindell Williams. We'll touch on that at the end. On that note, I think we should get into this episode. Bonnie, what album will we be reviewing today?
Well, again, folks, we are doing Eminem's Relapse album.
Check that out on the back.
Which came out May 15th, 2009. So about 10 years ago.
On the back, it's like a prescription thing with the track lists.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to share that with you.
Well, even on the front, if we're going to discuss the album cover, essentially this is a label that you would see on a pill bottle itself. And his face and the main picture is composed of pharmaceutical pills.
I'm holding this up like they can't see the really nicer version of it in the fucking corner
Well,
over there.
and if you want to zoom in or you want to Google it, you can see, but it's like made out of pills, which is pretty interesting and very clearly what this album is about.
And then you got the disc thing, which kind of looks like the top of a pill bottle in your instructions on how to take the disc out, which I thought was cool. I don't know, we never really do this because we don't necessarily always have the discs.
Yeah.
And then what's really cool is this part over here. And I'd like to just read this to y'all as we get into this part of the story. This is just a little dedication to Big Proof, 1973 to 2006. Proof, no matter how much time passes, not a day goes by that I don't think of you. If it weren't for you, I would not be where I am today, and we both know it. I tried to write a song for you, but nothing was good enough, so I'm dedicating them all to you, and you'd be happy to know I spazzed out of my, and again, I know you wouldn't have it any other way. Fuck 'em all. Let's get 'em. P.S. I'm sober now. I know you'd be proud. I love you, Duty. I'll never forget you. Love, Duty. And that was just really sweet. And I mean, honestly, I never would have caught that if I didn't have this shit here. So I wanted to share that to you because it just kind of shows maybe his mind state a little bit going into it. So this is the part of the show where we like to contextualize how familiar we are with each artist. But when you type in behind that suit reviews about the only thing that comes up in predictive text is Eminem. So you know we've reviewed some Eminem albums. There's a safe assumption maybe this is your first one, but for those of you that are probably waiting for this review in particular or whatever, I know sometimes y'all are actually maybe typing in Eminem. So we've done a few. How many have we done? I don't know. We can walk through it.
Like 4?
Infinite. We did that
5?
one. Slim Shady LP. Marshall Mathers LP. Eminem Show. Encore. We've also done D12 Devil's Night.
Yeah.
We've also done 50 Cent's Get Rich or Die Trying. It counts. It's part of the group. We've also done, on the newer end, Revival and Kamikaze. So that's all the Eminem reviews for those of you who really want to understand our connection to Eminem. Suffice it to say, at this point, it's kind of cool because we've listened to a lot of both. Myself, at least, I've listened to both ends of it. The newer stuff from a reviewer perspective and everything up until this point to this perspective, where we're coming in. But I also, when this album dropped, you have to understand, Encore comes out, I'm at the end of high school. I'm not like, I have parents who were like, you can't buy music with swearing and stuff and whatnot. So like, this was the first Eminem album I was allowed to buy and listen to, because when this drops in 2009, I believe, you usually have the dates ready, but when this...
Yeah, it was, I said it was April 15th, 2019? Not 19.
Damn, so what you're saying is we're about 5 or 6 weeks late on any chance of this going viral because we missed the 10-year anniversary. But still, like, at that point in my life, I've moved out. I'm in my own crib and shit. And I know we shared the files, or I own it, so I had the disc. Maybe I bought this. I really don't remember. Maybe I did buy this shit. I can't. Whatever. Maybe I did. So, I mean, I don't know. I have discs. I don't know how I got them. They're just in the apartment. And so for me, this was a cool album experience because up until this point, I had listened to like a lot of his music. I mean, I'd gone as far as buying one of the mixtapes off of eBay. I heard the uncensored version of Kim off that shit because it was there, plus a bunch of other just random little tracks. Like Biterphobia is an example of a song I heard off, and if you haven't heard it, I remember Biterphobia. It was that hype. Either way, so when this came out, I listened to it a whole bunch with very mixed feelings because, as you guys might know, in 2004 or 5, whenever Encore came out, I guess 5, I don't remember.
2006?
Nah, it was earlier than that. Whenever Encore comes out, it comes out. Like, Bonnie can Google it. And that shit drops. And between that or whatever, Proof has died right before it. Maybe it was 2006. I don't really know. Still, Encore comes out.
November 12th, 2004.
Yeah, so that comes out. And then between that and whatever, Proof ends up passing away, which is really sad.
Yeah.
Eminem kind of spirals out of control. But he really goes like AWOL. And this is an interesting time for me because I'm at that age where YouTube is popping and we are able to find every single Eminem mixtapey freestyle battle disc you ever had. So like we were just scouring the internet and YouTube, listening to this one and that one and whatever. So like, you know, it was kind of like hyped up, but there hadn't been a new Eminem project. There were questions of if he's going to retire. I remember when the King Mathers thing happens and all that shit goes on.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden it comes. And we get, you know, Crack a Bottle, which I remember coming out. And then we get We Made You. And we're like, holy fuck. And it builds up into this album. And it comes out. And then this motherfucker appears. And I can tell you that my initial reactions to that project, which are not what we're going to talk about today, was there are songs I really fucking liked on it. And there are songs I really didn't like on it. So the songs I really, really liked, I listened to. And when I went into them today and we were really doing the review this time around, I was singing along. Like, let's be honest, Beautiful's a banger. It's just a fucking banger. And when you're like a 20-year-old who's all fucked up in your life, Beautiful's a song you connect to, you know? But then, like, maybe something like, I don't know, My Mom is something that I wasn't so feeling at the time, just to give an example where I was at with it.
Right.
And then, I don't know, time went on. Eminem's history's gone on. A decade's gone by. Lots has happened. And now we review albums and we're doing this. But for the most part, I haven't listened to this album, anything off of it, for at least 3 to 4 years before, like, sorry. She listens to the damn fucking We Made You, so I apologize. That shit has played. Anything outside of that one song, I haven't heard in years.
Yeah,
I lied
same.
again. Travis Barker does a good remix. I heard that one recently, but outside of that, you know, like for the album I haven't listened to, so I was kind of excited having listened to all the other shit to get to this because it really is such an interesting point in his career. By so many, including himself, it's viewed as like his low point. By so many others, it's this cool, interesting album. So it's like, what is the mystery of Relapse? Is it a good one? Is it a classic? Like, part of me was ready to go in and be a hater, and part of me was ready to go in as a detective and see what the fuck we could find out. And I don't know. I'm excited to get into it. But what about you? How was your feelings? Like, did you ever hear Relapse back in the day?
No. So, I mean, this was when I was like, what, 2009? This was when I was like partying and hanging out with a lot of gay people. We were not listening to Eminem. Like, sorry, like, we were listening to like Kesha. I was going to LMFAO concerts. Like, that's where I was at. So, but yeah, so I mean, I wasn't listening to this, but I liked We Made You because it was, you know, fun and goofy, and I've loved Trisha Paytas for as long as I can remember. And for those of you who don't know who she is,
Well, let's not spoil. We'll get there.
we'll get there. But so yeah, I mean, like, I like that one song, but no, I had never listened to this entire album.
All right, so we talked a bit about the cover, and I think there's cohesiveness. And I know Bonnie's like, yes, this is going to be long. We're about to get into the album, but we're not. We're going to talk a little bit about the marketing campaign because that's part of the project. And I thought it was really cool because if you all remember, Eminem tried something when Revival dropped where he made the website and the funny little phone number. And we're talking about Revival, the 2017 December project. And you could call up, and it was kind of a callback to a marketing campaign for Relapse. And that was, so what's interesting is in 2009, this is a fresh fucking idea. Text written blogs are king. YouTube is for the geeky and the weird. You know, like it's not a time where like even Twitter has substantial impact yet. Facebook's still kind of young. You know, our parents hadn't invaded it yet. So blogs and these kind of website viral marketing that Eminem employs here, it's fucking dope. But when he did it again in 2017, it kind of flopped. I thought it was cool. It turned out I was kind of the lame and alone one on that one. So let's go back to 2009 where it was cool and we all agreed because I love this shit. So if you go to the-relapse.com, you get redirected to popsomehills.com, which doesn't exist anymore, unfortunately. That redirects you to Universal Music Group. Those little cocksuckers apparently just hijacked the domain so that they can get some more traction. Either way, it was a page for a fictional rehab center, and then Eminem like took a picture in front of it, and it was all part of like a promo that built up to like, you know, the beginning of like the rollout of the first single and shit.
Yeah.
And I just thought it was super cool because like it was just like this interactive Easter eggy thing at a time when that was maybe an effective strategy and when it was smart to do. And it just showed the boss level of like effort that went into this project.
Yeah,
Now,
I mean, he's pretty smart no matter what he does.
now, whether or not you enjoy the aesthetic of, say, this album is a completely different circumstance than, say, if you actually, can respect and admire the effort and the actual brilliance of the just the top level marketing that went into it. Like everything down to like this little pill cover thing on the back. Like to me, it was just so well thought out. I mean, the album cover is ingenious. You know, like it's just a bunch of pills, but it makes up his face in a collage kind of way. All of it's really fucking cool. Anyway, that's all I got to say about that. I'm pretty excited to get into it. Are you excited to get into it, Bonnie?
Yes.
Can I get your enthusiasm?
Woo!
What if I say doctor, you say
West.
skit?
I mean, it's not like a requirement. If they fit into your schedule, I know you're a busy person.
All right, Bonnie, I'm going to talk a lot, so we're going to let you go first a lot.
Okay, so he's basically going to see like his doctor for essentially like a final assessment as he's about to be released from rehab.
This little fictional place he's invented.
Yeah. And it sounds a little bit creepy, and the doctor starts making some shady remarks, and like, you know, kind of like how he doesn't need a sponsor, and like, you know, if he doesn't get to like his, I'm guessing like NA meetings, it's fine, like, you know, we get it, you're busy, they're not that important, don't worry about it. So, and it kind of made me think that like the world, like this is kind of what he's dealing with, like in like the world, like going through like the music world and kind of like the realities of like the pressures that he faces, and sort of like how he copes with them, like even like sort of like his alter ego would, you know, just do the drugs and just be like, oh, it's not that important, like you don't need to take this so seriously, and so I think it's two different people it could be, or two different things it could be, but he's trying to stay like focused and stay clean, and you know, he's trying to like ask questions like how he can approach certain situations, but he's just being like negatively influenced by this like doctor essentially, and he's like, oh, the 12 steps aren't that important, I don't even know them all, like ha ha ha, and you know, if like you're around people who drink, just take a drink, it'll take the edge off, like don't worry about it, and which is basically like the exact opposite of what you would want to hear, like in like those moments where you're feeling like you're going to try to conquer something that was difficult for you to conquer before, and then like the doctor sort of just becomes like a demon or something, and then he's like forcing him to take these pills, and then like his alarm goes off and we realize it's just like all just like a nightmare. And I mean, it's pretty cool. It's good. It's creepy. And, like, I imagine this is something scary, like, you know, sort of like the realities of trying to be sober, and trying to deal with people, and you know, especially when you're like straight out of rehab, like you're probably having a lot of like the same sort of thoughts that he was kind of like, you know, kind of joking around or like creepily being weird with in this skit. So it's probably very relatable to a lot of people who are just out of rehab, and how there's still like that demon, still something is trying to get him, like it's not just going to be easy to be clean, like there's going to be such influence and people are going to put pressures on him. So I thought it was pretty good. I gave it a 4.5.
All right, so it starts off, and yeah, like you have this like kind of whatever state, and it does feel like he's about to check out a rehab, and it's like, Dr. West, how you feeling today? He's anxious. Eminem's like ready to go. So like we have the character of Marshall Mathers ready to go. He's gonna do the right thing. He's gonna get focused. He's gonna, play it like he's supposed to, work the steps, etc. Although, let's be real, it's a little wonky that nobody's talked about the steps before the last meeting before you go into the world. Just throwing it out there. But outside of that, it's fictional. It's meant to set up a series of suspense. It's like, it's gonna be a really hard thing, like with a lot of temptations, like you said. But meanwhile, there's like this voice that is kind of telling him all the wrong things. Now, when you get to the end part, you realize that the voice morphs into a demon thing. Now, the true shady geeks out there, that's my polite way of saying stans, they will know that on the Slim Shady EP's introduction, which introduces the character Slim Shady to the world after the flop of Nice Guy Eminem on Infinite, you kind of have this conversation in this dream state where some demon-like voice is taking over and Eminem is kind of responding to it in a similar-esque way of that, and it's like the character of Slim Shady takes over, and then, it would roll into something like whatever it did on that project. Because, full disclosure, I listened to the intro. I don't think I've actually heard the Slim Shady EP in full before. I don't know, somehow, like, you looked at the track list, like, I heard the LP. I don't know if I need to hear the EP. Maybe I'm wrong. I'd love to hear it. Maybe we'll do a reaction video to the EP just as, like, a bonus over there. So, you get this whole point. But when you start to listen to the voice that's used as he gets the demon voice, it's the same demon voice that's used to introduce the character of Slim Shady. And when you think about it, Slim Shady is like the worst sides of him being manifested, and what would Slim Shady do is all of this dark shit. So it's almost like Eminem's having a nightmare at the beginning of this, and he sees his doctor, who he's probably trusts and has a certain relationship, but Slim Shady is like the devil in a sense, and the devil is one who's in disguise, and he chooses the disguise of the trusted figure of Dr. West to manipulate Eminem's susceptibility into feeling a certain way, and then he starts to like take over, and we get that, oh no, come on, oh fuck you man, no, as he's like losing control, and then the alarm goes off, and you can almost feel the beat of the next song pulsating in, and like it does its job in the way that Eminem knows how to do to like build up a kind of whole feel towards that first explosive moment where track 2 kicks in, which is really the first song. As an introduction, it serves its goal really well.
Yeah.
But we will talk about this. It also does its well to introduce kind of, I think, where in the timeline this story takes place, because I believe, and I have a theory, that at the macro level, the songs of this album tell a very linear story, with every song being very carefully placed to move the global narrative along. So, if I'm not mistaken, he has a relapse at a certain point in real life. I might be wrong about that. And so maybe how you get to that relapse, how these things happen, and it's just kind of a way of showing it. Anyway, we'll talk a bit about that later on. I gave this a 4.5 for now. It's fucking dope. I think it's a powerful intro. And it sets us up for one of my favorite songs on this album. I'm going to be real with you. It's 3 a.m. in the morning. Put my key in the door and raise the scissors and pins. Jesus, when does it end? Phases that I go through. Something we need to address that I completely forgot about. This is the first time Eminem and Dr. Dre actually made like an album in whole together. I know you might be going, what the fuck do you mean? But I watched an Eminem interview where he like really laid this down. So in the past, it would be like, yo, we were friends and shit, and we would chill, and we would do like a day or two here, a week here. We would book out the sessions, but we were working on different things, and everybody's having, their separate moments. So, Eminem was involved with the Bass Brothers and had other beat makers and stuff involved. It wasn't just Dr. Dre who made every beat on every other project. So this was the first time that Eminem and Dr. Dre worked in such a way where it's like they took a few months or whatever it was together and created this album. 19 of the 20 tracks are produced by Dr. Dre. So in history, that's a pretty significant milestone to achieve. And the one song that's not produced by Dr. Dre, well, it's fucking, we'll get there, but still. So it's cool to have that like cohesiveness to it, and I think that's part of how it can play into this story element that gets carried along. So in the last one, it's like a nightmare that's taken place, you know, as maybe internally in conflict, you have the nightmare going on. And maybe because you're high, you have a certain nightmare of a certain thing and your internal conscience is struggling or some shit. And then beep, 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 it's 3 a.m. And Bonnie, what happens in this song?
Well, do you want me to go through the whole thing?
Well, why don't you do your part so then, you know, it's totally fair. And then I can just talk without feeling guilt of not letting you have your opportunity to shine.
Okay. So this is basically about his pill use and how he wouldn't necessarily always remember the shit that he did when he was high and only realizes, like, the consequences to his actions when he, like, wakes up and, you know, from his, like, blackout or whatever. And so, like, the sound of it, like, sounds sort of, like, heavy and warped and kind of sounding, and, like, the hook is, like, kind of catchy, and the song tells, like, a story fine, and just sort of, like, about, like, his, like, weird, usual fantasies, and, like, but still, like, how there's always somehow, like, truth woven through it, and, like, bits of himself in it, and, like, there's, like, in, like, his, like, crazy messages and, like, crazy stories, like, there is, like, a part of him, and he definitely always talks about things and people that are very relevant, at the time, which definitely tends to make his albums, like, you know, they're very popular and very relevant when they're released, but they sometimes have issues being, you know, timeless, you know, because in 20 years when, like, he's making references to, you know, when people go to do the exact same thing that we're doing, 20 years from now, that people are going to have, you know, not going to know what they're talking about, which is, you know, sometimes what we struggle about with really old albums, that we don't understand, like, the situation, like, when they come out. So I think that that's, like, something that gets lost, like, you know, between generations, like, on songs that are like this, or albums that are like this.
And then you have other lines, just to interject quickly, that are accidentally still kind of relevant. A flashlight up Kim Kardashian's ass.
Yeah.
Okay, anyway, go on.
But, like, I mean, this
But
is,
it also serves your point, because one day that line won't be relevant.
yeah, people are going to be like, who's Kim Kardashian?
But that won't be for a long time. He
Yeah.
got lucky with that one.
Yeah. But, I mean, that's what it is. I mean, so for me, like, I thought it was good, but I didn't think it was his best. And his rhymes were great, but it didn't necessarily stand out in terms of, like, his, like, big hits. So I gave it a 4.25.
So yeah, on the one hand, like, it really, I find every song has a dual role. Like I said, there's the part where this song is about a particular thing. In this case, it shows the consequences of your pill use, as you were saying. And what he also does is he basically writes this horror shit. And I was really thinking about it, because I guess in 2019, you ask yourself questions like, what's appropriate? Is it okay to write songs about killing Hannah Montanas and shit, because referring to, like, the more infantile, it's like, is that okay, you know? Like, sitting nude in my living room, it's almost noon. I wonder what's on the tube. Maybe it'll show some boobs. Surfing every channel till that find Hannah Montana. Then I reach for the aloe and the lanolin. Bust all over the wall paneling. Like, on a surface level, that's a little bit creepy. But then you have to remember that it's probably satirical.
Yeah.
In which case, we've already discussed on the last album how Eminem kind of finds it weird how society's into the sexualization of the infantile peoples. So, like, a 16-year-old will get turned into this sex symbol and shit. And so, who is jacking off to all this stuff, you know? Like, it asks some pretty good questions. So, when I was younger, I took it a little bit too literally and was kind of stupid with it. I mean, as y'all who do watch me know, I can go pretty literal with what's being said here. But then I thought a lot about where we draw the lines on things. So if Rob Zombie makes a horror movie where this entire song gets played out, it's like 100% acceptable. Hell, you'll throw a 16 plus on it. It won't even be 18 plus.
Yeah.
Whereas because you're listening to it in an album, somehow that makes it more graphic or less. But I don't know. So then
Fair point.
I was thinking about what you were saying on our Isham Kill the Fetus review, where like this is like an outlet, right? This is a way to take your environment and how you feel, like more the horror side of rap, and just put it somewhere in like a healthy and productive way. Now let's consider what Eminem's going through at this point. He's fresh out of rehab.
Yeah.
This is like his first year trying to understand how to be sober. He's probably trying to get in touch with those same serial killer thoughts that fueled him to success off of, but doing it sober instead of high. So maybe he went a little extreme with it. Maybe his line wasn't in the same place or whatever. But it really, to me, sounds like a guy who's coping with some really dark shit and just taking the pain of his environment and making these horror pieces of art that are pretty significant. And so if you look at it like it's a horror movie told through a rap song form, and it is shocking and it isn't meant for kids, and it's meant for like a mature audience to like kind of think about and consider the different perspectives on, then I don't know, all of a sudden my whole attitude about, oh, this is inappropriate, just flew out the window, right? And I started really trying to understand what he was saying with it. So yeah, you kind of hit the nail on the head in my opinion, but let's be real. From a rhyming perspective, it's a little underrated how good his rhyming is.
Yeah.
While, because it's like,
I mean, I never said anything bad. I said
Like-
that his rhymes were still like good.
but like compared to Encore, his rhyme, like it's like Encore had a more maybe diverse set of subject matter that was like more song like, that was cool.
Okay.
But the rhymes on this, like you're walking down a horror corridor, it's almost 4 a.m, you're in a nightmare, it's horrible, right? There's the coroner waiting for you to, like every single line here has the same rhyme with the horror. He's morphing sentences and shit. It's so sonically interesting to listen to at like a lyrical front, and his flow's there. And as far as Dre's production on this album as a whole goes, I have extremely mixed feelings song to song. This is one where I feel it's just absolutely stellar, and he just hits it. And basically, what is Slim Shady but this shocking fucking murderous psychopathic character that we've been introduced to on the last albums? And if you can hear it from outside, somebody's mowing a fucking lawn, but I was just going with it, so sorry for the background noise. It's fucking hot in Montreal today.
Yep.
And yeah, so it just kind of builds up, and like the way he's rapping, like contemplating my next plot again, swallowing a clonazepam while I'm nodding in and out of the ottoman at the Ramada and holding on a pill bottle there, and you're just like, what is he doing? Why does that sound so good? Why does it have to be so creepy murderous? Okay, got over that, like I said. But like, you really like listen to it, and then like you kind of get shit. So he does those pills, and he kind of wakes up naked in McDonald's. But then you also hear, like, I was just listening to Joe Rogan talking about his experiences in a real life hotel fire. Like you're in a big hotel and there's a fire, and there's it's going on, and he's on. It's the middle of the night. Everybody's going down the stairs, and he's seeing all these rich people just like floating like zombies. Like they're all fucking Ambien. They're not gonna even remember this. They're just waking up halfway through like, oh shit, where am I? Why am I on the stairs? So like this is a real thing that, like, I guess with my understanding now of how these drugs work, Eminem is really just glorifying in a sense what could happen in an extreme way if the wrong person were to do a lot of these pills,
Yeah.
while being kind of creepy and rhyming like, I'm just a hooligan who's used to using hallucinogens, causing illusions again, brain contusions again, cutting and bruising the skin. Like, everything rhymes perfectly. The imagery's powerful, but most importantly, he's rapping his fucking ass off. Like the Slim Shady we all wanted to come back, right? Like, we wanted this guy to come back at this point in time.
Yeah.
I'm not so thrilled with him here in 2019. I'm okay with him staying back in the past now for his newer music. Personally, I like conceptual Eminem more as at my age. But like coming back to this and hearing where he's at and shit, like, yo, this is a cool way to cope with getting sober, all things considered. And I think that should just be stated. So,
Yeah.
if you consider the narrative of the album, so he wakes up and bad shit has happened off of his pill use or whatever. He's had a relapse. And anyway, okay, I gave this song just so we... Oh yeah, the beat's great. We talked about that. It's a 5 on 5. This shit is amazing. This is a really great song on every front. Like, it doesn't really cross the lines in my opinion, right? Like, it's pretty tame.
Yeah.
It's like a horror movie. Oh, and Travis Barker's remix, Oh my gosh, if you wanted to see this song get better, in my opinion, Travis Barker makes this shit better. If you don't agree, that's okay. The music video is so whatever, I have nothing to say about it. Oh, one of my favorite parts is when he goes, she puts the lotion in the bucket, it puts the lotion on the skin, and once it gets the hose again, just pulling from like this horror lore and stuff. Like, it almost seems like Eminem spent like a year or two of his life just watching horror movies and studying serial killers, and this album is like the byproduct of it, because you really look at all the
probably just part of, not just a year, like this is probably what he grew up on.
But like almost every one of the references he makes totally fucking perfect sense, and if you understand them, they're really dope. But maybe a lot of us just didn't tap into the core influences that made this album come to light the way that it did. Bonnie's like, okay, you've been talking forever. I understand. Now she's just starting to sound like my mom. Alright, Bonnie, how do you feel about this song?
So this one is definitely more goofy Eminem, which is, I think he's definitely like, when he does this kind of like character, I like it a lot. It's always fun. He basically is recognizing that he's exactly like his mother, and that everybody's probably sick of hearing about her, but he's going to go into details about how she specifically raised him and like the specific issues that he has with her and how she did that, mostly concerning the fact that she basically poisoned him and made him sick as a child, like for many years, I'm guessing, and it's definitely left like long, life-lasting issues, and things that he goes to therapy for and stuff like that. And, this is something that he's still dealing with. And basically because he grew up being forced to like ingest all of these pills all the time, it's really not that surprising that he became, an abuser of pills, because it's what he was taught. It's what he knows. It's, it's starting, especially probably at a young age. I don't know at what age this whole thing started, but any age is bad. but and basically how his mom is different from like most normal people's moms because of what she did and because of her own, I believe, prescription pill abuse and issues. And people think that they won't end up like their parents, but more often than not, they do. And so he's basically saying that he's like his mom, and he's kind of coming to terms with like some of like the issues and like where they stem from, and that she also had issues that she was dealing with, and that he still loves her, even though all this shit, happened, and it was really fucked up. And it's, in all honesty, it's quite an honest song, and especially considering how light and goofy it sounds, it's quite a serious topic, and quite, he addresses it well, and he's obviously like working on himself and making realizations about himself and about his family, and understanding where his anger and issues come from. So I think that that's kind of what he's kind of deciphering in this song. So I liked it. I gave it a 4.5 on 5. It was good.
All right, so I would like to start off by saying I very much dislike this beat. I do not enjoy listening to it. I understand that it's well made and that Dr. Dre does a good job. I feel like from a proficiency point of view, it checks all the boxes. You can bop your head to it, but just like at the end of the day, when I listen to it and that hook, I don't like that hook at all. Like from a sound point, my mom loves Valium and lots of drugs. It's like the first time I think we're getting the obnoxious accent side of M that becomes a little bit much on this album, as you may know. So look, I can understand how hit or miss this is. And I could also see how, like, what's really annoying me about this, somebody else really appreciates. And let's talk about how hard it is to actually hold the accents he's holding so perfectly and swapping between them song over song. So in the past, when I've criticized Eminem, I have been accused of, like, not giving him the praise. And I'm just trying to give him the praise at how talented and next level the vision of creating this level of, like, weird vocal expressiveness, the dynamic aliveness of it. But I just fucking can't stand listening to this one for some reason. It's just annoying to me. However, I'm glad I came back to review it, and I'm glad that I came to really look at it, because if you think about what's just happened, right, in a sense, he's relapsed off of drugs in the plot of this album. And while 3 a.m. is very theatrical and dramatical, the point is, bad shit happened because drugs happen. And Dr. West shows the demons he's battling. And then we move on to him maybe reflecting. I'm thinking how he came to be this way. And as we know with Marshall, it comes down to his mother. And I love the fact that he just owns it. Like, my mom. I know you're probably tired of hearing about my mom. Oh, ho, 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 or whatever he says there. But this just the story of when I was a shorty and how I became hooked on a Valium. Now, I know Eminem at this point in time has in fact won a court case allowing him to say whatever he wants to about his mother without repercussions. Like, he paid it out, he can say what he wants. And in this track, like, what he's describing is just terrible. Like, how his food was drugged and all this stuff. Like, his mom would, like, force him to eat, like, Xanaxes. Like, now tell me what kind of mother would ever want to see her son grow up to be under a fucking achiever. Now, on the one hand, you might go, maybe this is super allegorical, and this might be a weird pull in.
But she really did have, like, Munchausen syndrome.
But, like, even more to the point, we just watched the When They See Us series, and one of the kids' moms basically couldn't be there for him in jail because she chose drugs over, like, maybe being effectively available.
Yeah.
And so, at the end of the day, while it's super maybe hyper allegorical, maybe these specific things didn't happen, maybe, or whatever, the tone of what he's actually describing in this song is unfortunately something that I imagine is realistic and does actually happen, for especially if we live in the era of, who do you think taught all these teenagers to pop pills? You're gonna tell me all the soccer moms doing Xanaxes and drinking didn't have something to do with that shit? I'm just throwing it out there in a really direct kind of way. Like, this is some serious shit. So Eminem was involved in that. His mom had all that shit. He was doing it. Maybe she was feeding it to him and giving him drugs, or at least exposing him to the environment of doing hard pills. And then you have, like, the teachers, and the education system in the hood is not exactly known for its empathy and caringness. So when you have, my teacher didn't think I was going to be nothing either. What the fuck are you stucking gum up under the fucking seat for? Mrs. Mathers, your son has been huffing ether. Either that or the motherfucker's been puffing reefer. I know all this huffing and puffing wasn't what it was either. It was neither. He's buzzing. It wasn't what she thought. So, you know, like, he is buzzing off of all his painkiller shit, but it wasn't like the typical things that teenagers are getting up to on their own. We're doing some soccer mom type drugs up in this shit, you know? And then, like, he just kind of flies off the handle, and then, like, his mother going into him about almost giving him, you know, the way he describes the paint thinner line, and his flow is pretty good. Like, wait a minute, this ain't dinner, this is paint thinner, you ate it yesterday, I didn't hear no complaints, did I? And, like, the way his timing and his pacing between every syllable is just expertly done. I just wish I liked the beat and the overall sound more, because it is so well done. I do have this conflict a lot when I review things I'm not particularly enjoying for, but can also recognize how well written it is. Like, you know, just describing putting the Valium into mashed potatoes and then putting it into spinach, and then, you know, like flipping, I believe at some point later on in the song, he does a little Popeyes little thing, you know, like, but I'm strong to the finish with me Valium spinach, and my buzz only lasts about 2 minutes. Like, you know, you just picture him like this is the source of his strength, because that's kind of probably what the drugs is doing to him, and he's turned into this party animal and stuff. And then, you know, he describes all the horrible ways he got the drugs, and then pointed out, like, man, this is kind of what happened because my mom got me hooked. I became a fucking drug addict. I became this type of person, you know? And then I just kind of like how he ends it. All right, Ma, you win. I don't feel like arguing. I'll do it. Pop and gobbling and start wobbling. Stumble, humble, tumble, slip, tripped, and I fell into bed with a bottle of meds and a Heath Ledger bobblehead. Because I believe around this time is when Heath Ledger passed. I don't remember the exact year, but it was around this time.
It was like
It had to
like
have
the
been
end,
at least
like
08.
January.
So yeah, it was early 09.
Because I was in Australia when it happened. It was a big deal because he's Australian.
Right. So all I'm saying is that from a conceptual point of view, just connecting the power of having a parent who can kind of almost introduce you to drugs and make that a part of you is a really powerful part of Eminem's story. And I kind of get why it's here. So from like the way it moves the album narrative along, it really makes sense. It's a deep dive into... but it's not done in like the way where like, you know, some of his more murderous thoughts are done. It isn't maybe as serious as cleaning out my closet, but it really does seem to zero in on some of the more potentially serious things his mother would have done.
But also cleaning out his closet, cleaning out my closet was more of like a jab at his mom, whereas this one was coming to terms with the fact that this was, this
like
was
real.
her issue, and she had issues that caused her to do this to me. Like, kind of like, he still loves her. He realizes that, she made mistakes and maybe she wasn't the greatest mom, but, this is what he had to deal with. And he's kind of accepting it all. Like, it's a different tone.
Yeah. So all of that, like, it just, because remember, this is, I'm going to keep saying it because I'm redundant like that, but it's part of a bigger narrative that we're going to build up to with the later songs of the album. So those of you that are familiar with it are probably already piecing together how this goes, but still, I gave this song a 4 on 5. Like, the talent, everything about this song is perfect, and if you like it, I'm certain it's like a 5 on 5 for you. I don't feel that way, so I'm being true to my grade here, but I wanted you to know how deep I had to think about it to like really understand how good this song was for the album, because it really works for this project.
Well, don't think too much because it might make you insane.
In the membrane. Insane,
Completely lost it. Is he nuts? No, he's insane. No.
This one is a lot harder to defend. Like, here's the thing. He admits on an interview that it's not like true. Like, none of this happened. So he just
which is, pretty common when he describes terrible, gory things that happen in his songs.
But the problem, I think, that maybe makes this problematic is because this album is otherwise so true story driven. I will get to how I can almost justify every other song with maybe a couple of exceptions. I can still fit this song into my theory. It's just Eminem, because again, there's what the song's about and then how the song fits into the bigger picture.
Okay.
So how the song fits into the bigger picture is like this. Your mom gives you a lot of drugs and you're fucked up and now you're insane. And he's painting this extreme example of going through maybe an environment. And you know what? While this didn't, I don't even know that this actually happens to other people, some of the events he describes in this song, you know that to a degree, it's not 100% like this doesn't happen.
I think like I've said before, I mean, there is definitely truth in his songs. Whether it's his truth or somebody else's truth, there is definitely truth in there.
Like,
usually it is his own truth.
I had my run of reading about all the violent, super extreme crimes on Wikipedia. You spend 3 hours and you read about all the terrible shit people have done. So, in a sense, yeah. I mean, we watch Philip DeFranco every now and again. He talks about some story where somebody has done some shit that could be this fucking song.
Yeah.
So, on that note, I suppose there is truth in his jest, but it's not his truth, and it's just fucking weird. Like, this is where the video gets really, I don't know how to quote this. Like, I was born with a dick in my brain, yeah, fucked in the head. Like, on every front, that line is well written. But then there's the other side where you're like, okay, my stepfather said that I sucked in the bed, and then you're like, whoa, where are you going with this,
there's
Marshall?
some serious charges to be accusing people of, or singing a song about that people are going to be questioning. If there was a stepfather involved, somebody was getting questioned.
Yeah, and so Eminem describes this as word sounds are the genesis of Insane, a song on Relapse, blah, blah, blah. It's pretty much all fiction. It's a perfect example of a rhyme gone bad. We're going out back. I want my sucked in the shed. I don't know if censoring that word will get the ad bots away from me. But damn, it's like he literally just insinuates that his stepfather is going to. Now, so how this fits into the bigger album is because imagine you are doing all these pills as a young teenager. Maybe you will fabricate this type of crazy shit as a defense mechanism to justify to yourself the pain that you're going through. Maybe instead of actually blaming your mother, you invent this or some other crazy story.
Yeah.
Because if you're a young person, because he was young when he was, as we know, going through all of this, describing this situation. We know that the drugs fucked with his shit. The bastard won't even eat nothing. He's fed. He just hung himself in the bedroom. He's dead. Debbie, don't let that fucker get you upset. Go in there, stick a fucking cigarette to his neck. I mean, there is probably truth in the fact that Eminem may have had a couple stepfather type figures in his life that probably didn't treat him too great.
Yeah.
And maybe the situation, so he's really jacking it to like far too high on this one for my preferences of sensibilities. Like, I'll go handle this one, of course, unless you object, and then his mother just consents to letting him go to town on him. It's just like, Eminem, why did you write this? And then there's the chorus. If you could count the skeletons in my closet, under my bed and up under my faucet, that's how you would know I've completely lost it. Is he nuts? No, he's insane. He's trying to really play to that. He's trying to cope with this situation as he's putting his reality back together. And to me, this just sounds like he was having a moment, and writing this shit out made him feel better. And because it's like a really good song from all the aspects of what, this is a lot more enjoyable to listen to as a song than My Mom.
Okay.
Except for the part where you think about what the fuck he's saying, and then it goes, oh, I don't know if I can really justify it, but man, then he aimed at his own face as he let the theme park, took his eye out, picked it up and played ping pong. Then he played ping pong with his own. That motherfucker's got nuts like King Kong, and it all is clever and really flows. And but fuck, is this a weird song? I mean, fuck him in the ass like don't you know what felch means? Well, then felching, if I'm not mistaken, is that the shit with the gerbil up the ass? Or no, felching is the term for sucking fluids, most commonly seeming out the anus. Well, then tell me, would you rather get felched or do the felching? Fuck him in the ass suck to come out while you're belching. Burp, belch, and go back for a second helping. Can you dig what I'm saying? Can you smell me? I want you to feel me like my stepfather felt me. Oh.
It's just weird and creepy that he wrote about it, but it didn't happen. And it's just weirder that that he's targeting it to someone.
But
maybe he had an issue, or this guy did do something that, obviously started this whole song.
So on the other hand, I know that this is a weird defense for it and all, but if you do look at the stories of all the people who do maybe act out in a certain way, or these serial killers or these vicious types that Eminem has clearly been studying, they were almost all molested or sexually abused as a young person. A lot of them were, when you really look into the history of it. So maybe in his mind, this is just a theme that is in the story of a psycho, and he adds it to the backstory of Slim Shady, because it almost is so what I think Insane does is it's the beginning of the inception of the Slim Shady character in his life. So he's fucked up, he can't help but cope, so he invents this Slim Shady personality to handle the insanity, which just takes this extreme shit and then pushes it out there. Because look at how this ends. Everything, and he laid all up underneath this thing on. Then he took his pants off. He took every fucking thing on, everything except his tank top and his training bra. Ain't he raw? Yeah, maniac. That's Shady Dog. Man, that motherfucker's gangster. Ain't he, dog? Shady Dog, that be going through your fucking brain. Say no more. What the fuck you waiting for? Sing along. So it's almost like the whole Shady character is the way that he copes with this shit. Right? Mm-hmm. And so part of the narrative, and it culminates, right? Because Eminem groups his shit together. I don't like this song though, because it's fucking hard to so I just justified all that shit because I think it's fair. It's it's a piece of art, right? something that got said to me by this little Scottish dude, Josh, is we talk. He added me over to the channel, so we chit chat. Is that this is an art project, right? And I don't think we often think about music as art projects so much. And in almost every other ulterior motive,
I think I do. I mean, that's kind of how I described it going into it.
well, I mean, we it's not something we're talking
we
about.
do, but
We
not
as in the world,
we
in
as in
general,
others.
people, myself included. When I listen to this project, my first thought isn't this is an art project trying to achieve a goal. And maybe that goal is being achieved through shocking shit. Like every year or two, there's some shocking art exhibit that really pushes lines for the sake of making a point. Maybe this is just Eminem's pushing it too far for the sake of his point.
And often artists get criticized or like ostracized by like communities and stuff like that, and by fans for pushing the limits with like their words or with their drawings or with their sculptures or whatever. Like there's a million different things that it could be, but I think that's often because music is so glorified. I think often like these people take the hardest hits.
I think it's because in a lot of senses we often look up to our musician heroes in a more relatable way, or at least for somebody like myself, I want to be like Eminem. I don't know that everyone wants to be like the painter person. And the same way actors will often get scrutinized too if they're like a wholesome actor and they take a role that's not appropriate for their branding or their image. I do think they'll take a hit. Or whenever like child actor grows up, like
Which we will kind of like touch on later.
but still, I give it a 3.5. Like, it is hard for me to... I defended the song really well as a defender of the song. I could never listen to it again and be fine with that, too.
Yeah, so I mean, this one, it started and like it kind of talks about like exactly as we mentioned how his like stepfather would rape him, and like how like the stepfather also like manipulated the mom well, and like I mean as much as she maybe didn't really care to start with.
Okay.
Oh my gosh, sorry. He made things worse. And basically describes how how he became like a monster, and this kind of like adds to like the reasoning why he feels maybe like so fucked up, and like that's why he goes to therapy, or just like more things like this, like just kind of like these thoughts that like show up in his head. I think that there's like obviously issues behind that. And since this whole story is like made up, he must be insane. Like that's kind of what they're assuming. But like authors and exactly like other artists like do stuff that they get paid for and get praised for. And they're seen as brilliant. For like Stephen King, like he's like glorified and everybody loves him. But Eminem basically does the same thing in a song, and people are like, well, what the fuck? And so it's interesting that people say no at certain times and yes at other times. So it's kind of weird. But overall, like this song is kind of twisted and filled with sort of personal issues. I do find like the beat gets annoying. He definitely makes a lot of like reference to like getting ass raped, which is interesting. And I think like there's kind of always been this sort of questioning of Eminem's like sexuality a little bit, and like what he likes, especially when it comes to Dr. Dre.
There's that video, if you've never seen it online, where I swear it looks like Dr. Dre talks about one of them sucking the other one's dick, and Em looks over like, I'll fucking kill you if you finish this sentence. I'm not saying something happened. I'm saying that video makes it look like something happened.
But I mean, like, who cares if it did? But it's just interesting that he's kind of talking about that, and
They care.
Yeah. Anyways, it's a 4 on 5.
Well, I'm glad you liked it more than I did. I don't give a lot of marks under 4 anymore, so you can tell that that's how little I enjoyed listening to it.
Yeah. Well,
The following song is also not my favorite. It's called Bagpipes from Baghdad.
Dracula for Dracula, acupuncture. Bagpipes from Baghdad. When will it ever...
So once upon a time,
not long ago.
I was a hoe. That's right. You can take that soundbite, people on the internet. Make fun of me. But yeah, once upon a time, Eminem and Mariah Carey may or may not have had intercourse. Like on Jimmy Crack Corn, it comes up. That's an Eminem song. And then whatever, Mariah Carey releases the song Obsessed, which is whatever, about this creepy stalker type person. And in the video, she has this like white guy with a little goatee and like a hoodie on.
Why are you
And
so
he very...
obsessed with me?
Is that how it goes? I was hoping you would know it because it's Mariah, and I figured you would know it. And then like it just kind of alludes Eminem's obsessed with her and keeps bringing her up. Okay. I personally thought it was funny that Eminem responds to that with The Warning, which was another track. It was pretty intense. But that was still like mixtape, not so popular. Now here's the thing. Who the fuck cares about this in 2019? This is the perfect example of like what Bonnie was describing earlier in the podcast when we were like, you know, some stuff got dated. Like,
but like he's known for doing this. Like he's very particular, Moby, Tom Green, like these are people that aren't necessarily in like the main public eye these days. And a lot of people, kids like the next generation aren't going to know who those people are.
On the one hand, I would counter and say that's what Google's for, because there are so many times where I've taken the time to Google the references and really make that effort to dissect it and see why it's brilliant. And I don't know that I think that doesn't make these lines less good. It does make it a little more dated for me who does understand these lines, because I invested my time in the Mariah Carey Eminem beef. I've been there, I've done that, I moved on. I don't know that I care that much anymore. I mean, who cares about Nick Cannon? I know he keeps trying to do his thing. Who cares about, like, Nick Cannon? Who the fuck is Luis Miguel? Apparently Mariah broke up with him. Who is that guy? I don't know. Mariah Carey made a Christmas album that everybody exploits to death every year, and it's one of the worst things to happen to humanity, in my opinion. Otherwise, she has the Glitter. I think Glitter is a song or an album by her, and she, has a few hits from my youth that I can kind of remember. And I'll be honest, she's an attractive lady. So if Eminem went there, kudos and stuff. But why is this such a prevalent theme? Like, why are these two beefing so much? Like, why did he think that anybody
they
would
probably
care?
did bang or something, or maybe they both agreed to be this will be good for our careers. Let's
maybe.
Make up a rumor.
I hope we find out that shit was just some engineered crap, because it's such a weird one. Anyway, Eminem starts off locked in Mariah's wine cellar, and all I had for lunch was bread, wine, more bread, wine, and Captain Crunch. Red wine for breakfast and for brunch, and to soak it all up as in between snacks, crackers to munch. Mariah, whatever happened to us? Why did we have to break up? And in a sense, in the timeline, I think this is for the album part of the story, and it's a bit of a stretch. It's Eminem's getting more into getting intoxicated on his own side of things, and he's getting into both getting high and embracing that shit, while also realizing that rapping about celebrity culture and kind of paying attention to the world and shit actually is advantageous to this Slim Shady character. So the Slim Shady character comes to life in the form of the insanity in the song Insane, but now from the song Bagpipes from Baghdad, which I think gets its name because it sounds like they took some bagpipes and used some Arab sounding sounds in it.
Well, it also makes me think of what's the Outcast song?
Bombs Over Baghdad.
Yeah.
Which, is another... Well, at this point...
It's all the bees.
Yeah, I guess in 2009, the U.S. is in Iraq at this point, and that shit's going on.
And
So there's pseudo-political theme, but then the bagpipes, I guess, because there's a military march, but it has nothing to do with this song.
No.
It really doesn't. Unlike shit where Eminem would go political, this is just there's nothing to do with it. It was just kind of pseudo. Still... From the rhyme point, it's almost like there's a little references to drugs kicking in a different way. So if we look at it 3 a.m. is the end of it. It's a relapse, whatever. How do we get here? And then we go 8 months earlier, and you go back to My Mom, which I guess is a lot earlier, and then now we're kind of cycling through his history a little bit, right? So now we're at the point where he's starting to party, starting to get a little more wild, starting to get a little bit crazier as time goes on in the timeline of his life. And that's kind of what Bagpipes from Baghdad's supposed to represent, the way he's wilding out, the way he's high all the time, the way he's going at people and shit, but still as he's inventing, I think, the persona. I'm stretching a little bit because
maybe he was drinking scotch.
Well, there's also there's references to doing narcotics and shit in the middle of the song, but it's just... But
I'm just trying to think of a reason why it would be something that would be Scottish, like bagpipes or whatever.
I think it was just because I don't think it's about the Scottish. I think it's more of a military reference to playing bagpipes and shit when somebody dies or whatnot, because there's still the military's there. But then lyrically, you can be a permanent fixture in my lyrical mixture. I'm the miracle whip trickster. My signature sound wasn't a tool, but lipsticks around. I'm bound to put it on in an instant. Wow, man, what an ensemble! What an assortment of pharmaceuticals. The beautiful pill dust in my palm. So it's almost like we know that his rhyming structure is made up, or it doesn't really. He's not really attacking you. It's just if your name fits, he'll use it, you know? And then he'll cut you like Jeffrey Dahmer, who's a serial killer and shit.
Yeah.
Put a butcher knife on you, which, you know, references into that. But that is kind of what he's doing, is he's lampooning celebrities and, you know, he's riling up some attention under this, like, Slim Shady character, you know? And then I really don't know how I feel about the part where, and this just because of how it sounds, made the motherfucker suck on the shucker corn, shucker corn, shucker con. And I was like, what are you saying, dog?
Yeah.
It's not that enjoyable for me to listen to. Bagpipes from Baghdad. When will it ever cease? For Pete's sake, he's crazy to say the least. Bagpipes from Baghdad. Of course, fucking sucks to me. I really don't like it. I don't. Okay, I don't enjoy it. But the verses. At first, I was like, this is trash. And then I really started listening to the rhyming and the pacing. And I'm like, no, this is as well written as everything else. And we're back onto my feelings with the accent thing. And there's something about this song that doesn't sit well with me.
Yeah.
But being a hater aside, this is quite, like, well written. You know, like, in the bed with two brain-dead lesbian vegetables. I bet you they become heterosexual. Nothing will stop me from molesting you. Fuck, I'm gonna lose the... Anyway. Titty fucking until your breast nipple flesh tickles my testicles. Like, it's... From a wordplay perspective, the way it bounces up, again, cut out what he's saying, look at how he's saying it, is fucking fresh. What he's saying, oigavalt. You know, like, that's the kind of... But this also just is me being a 31-year-old prissy person, you know? But then I like how he also points out, just out of nowhere, I just got my 1-year sobriety coin chip. When the bad gets going, how bad does the going get? Baby, you shouldn't have troubles rubbing groins with each other, especially when you're joined at the hip. I don't know. Like, I think there's a kind of sense of, like, there is almost like we're flashing back, but like a little sense, guys, remember, I am sober now. I'm not crazy. We're like thinking back, just a little Easter egg so you don't forget that Eminem is still in control of this ride, which I thought was really interesting to put that in. And then like back to creepy shit, an attempt to separate them, stitching back together at the line shit. Lure the little boy with the chocolate chips ahoy chip, cookie looky, ever even took me a Polaroid pic. Like a creepy taking pictures of a little... It's just fucking creepy. Yeah. But it's so well done. It's such a weird juxtaposition of feelings when you're like looking at it critically. And then you know, at the end, which really
that's not how it goes at all.
How does it go?
It's like he's making fun of the Arab accent. It's a hamdallah.
Oh, you know what? I saw it, and then that popped into my head, which is a different song. Still, that's kind of the classic Eminem move and shit, poking fun at what other effects and whatnot. It's all right. It's this song is not one I enjoyed listening to, but well, it works on the project in his extreming making fun. Anyway, it's a 3.5 on 5. I could totally live without Insane or Bagpipes from Baghdad. To me, those two are like, they're like one of the lowest points on this album.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is definitely a low point. And like I love bagpipes. I'm Scottish heritage. But going into this, like, this was super weird. It's sort of like digitalized bagpipes that are supposed to be like semi-Arabian sounding. Like, it's just sort of weird, and it's just not really enjoyable to listen to. He has like a fake Scottish accent at one point. And basically just about like the rumors and whatever about like him and Mariah Carey and his issues with like, Nick Cannon and like the other people that she dates. And it just seems like very like childish and like oddly possessive of her. This song definitely doesn't seem like the kind of song that holds the test of time at all. And I think that he's also kind of maybe like self-destructing, or like it's just like a weird thing. Like, it just makes me think of like a suicide bomber, like how, I don't know, it just seems like so out of it, like this one. I found it like pretty fucking awful, honestly, and like looking at it in like the scope and the lens of like 2019, it definitely is like very racist. Like it just doesn't like hold up anymore.
But it's also like, Nick Cannon, you prick, I wish you luck with the fucking whore. Every minute there's a sucker board. It's like
they're already divorced now. Like the whole thing doesn't like it's just not relevant or like enjoyable to listen to. It's like, you know, reading gossip from 20 years ago. Like it's just not great.
I don't know, like looking back on it, I don't know how Eminem ever came off being cool beefing with Mariah Carey. Like really think about it. Like, it's one thing to go beef with
I mean, like,
rappers
I
and
have.
shit.
I'm like, I think it's just fucking weird. Like, it's just like an attention grab.
Yeah, not as. It's like sometimes artists have moments where you question it. I don't know.
Yeah, this one's no good. I gave it a 2 on 5.
I do also want to say it is pretty fresh. Man, I could use a fresh batch of blood, so prepare your vernacular for Dracula acupuncture. Ooh, pretty good. He's gonna come at you Dracula style. And it's just dope. Wordplay is necessary, and that's the problem, I think, is that so many parts of this song are super fresh. While when you think about the song, all things considered, Eminem sounds kind of lame. Whereas the other ones, there's like a bigger poetic purpose that could be justified. Even in the Insane track, you could really justify how his childhood is bad and this is like a coping mechanism. This just sounds like some edgy shit that it is what it is. Anyway, that's enough about that one. Why don't we talk about My Name Part 2? Sorry, My Name Is Part 2, called Hello.
Okay.
Booty shaking like jello. Girl, I don't mean any harm on the
A really cool one, but we'll let Bonnie go first again.
Yeah, I mean, this one is another sort of like goofy, crazy, shady song. His rhymes sound very, they sound cool, but also like there's not really, like they're also not that great. Like they're not the best rhymes.
Go on.
Hold your reaction.
I'm reacting to you live.
But he tells a story. He's kind of like, he doesn't want to get STDs, which is definitely something new, because in the past he's definitely talking about like having like all of like the STDs. And then he talks about how he doesn't have to have pills anymore, and how he almost died, and then he went to rehab, and now he's feeling better, and he's back, and he's like back in control again. And like that's sort of like the little like message that's hidden, I find, like in this song, but it's what holds the song together, because I feel like without it, it would just like receive like a lower grade. It just wouldn't be as good. But because there is like something like that's actually like his own true story is kind of mixed in there, so it does kind of like hold it together, like I said. I mean, this one feels like he's kind of proud that he's made it out, but for me, like the song just wasn't that great. So I give this a 3.8 on 5.
So back in the day when I started listening to this album, this is 100% in the list of the songs that really stuck with me and I found really enjoyable.
Okay.
But I didn't really get it. I feel like I said, at a certain point reviewing this album this time around, I had my epiphany. And this is the reintroduction of the character of Slim Shady, but it also serves the role of being the part of the timeline in his life where now the Slim Shady character is coming to be. So in his life, this moves it along to I'm popping off, I'm blowing up and shit, right? So now we see in the past one, like the drugs were kind of mild. Now it's like fucking crazy shit going on. I see that chick in my gym, see that chick in the gym checking me out. Any second about to stick my neck in the mouth. I lose a pill and I'm recklessly wrecking the house. That was supposed to be breakfast, but the heck is it now? That's the necklace, and he flows in and it's like, okay, now there's more drugs right away, more women, more crazy shit seems to be going on and whatnot. Yeah. Man, I should check to see if my mom left any out, just kind of taking that extra little shot there. But really, this whole verse is while this Slim Shady shit's going on, I'm just obsessed with doing drugs, down the hatch and feeling you can't match. A rat tat tap on the door with a damn ratchet, a tat tat tacking a whore with a damn hatchet, a knapsack pat with 40-some Xanaxes. So really think about what he's saying here. That Slim Shady character is basically the byproduct of doing a whole lot of drugs and shit and crazy stuff going on in his life. So we go back to the intro, hello, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Shady. So nice to meet you. And it really does feel like you're going back to that earlier golden era Eminem, we'll call it, in that little thing. And I think it's done on purpose to very much place you in the story of his life. Everything prior to this moment is before he met Dr. Dre. Now he's met Dr. Dre at this point, introducing it officially. This is the my name is moment of his life. It's blowing up now. All sorts of drugs and shit is happening, as I pointed off, you know. My equilibrium's off. Must be the lithium. I don't need to buy any drugs, man. People give me them. It becomes everyday, extracurriculum. No reason in particular. It was strictly fun. Now, if you listen to the stories about Eminem's life, like, he wasn't sober for so much of that shit. And there was a patch where he got his arrest and his whatever, when he had the weapons charge for, like, pistol whipping the dude or the assault charge or whatever. He couldn't do shit like weed and ecstasies anymore, so it flipped into prescription drugs and shit like that. So that's the kind of drugs he's ending up doing at a certain point. So it does go from that to, like, more like the kind of painkillers, you know, alcohol. 51 people asleep in my damn living room. Excuse me, hon, what is your name? Vivian. I woke up next to you naked. Did we? Of course we did, but didn't I strap Jimmy, huh? And then he finds, like, the condom wrapper, and he's fucking happy with that.
Yeah.
And then he's like Speedy Gonzalez after that to find if anyone has a couple of threes, which is Tylenol threes with codeine, which is like the strongest form of kind of codeine you can get without a prescription. Actually, you might need a prescription for Tylenol 3s. I don't know.
Maybe.
So, like, it's over-the-counter codeine that you can acquire, so it's possible for people to get. He's feeding for some, so it's like his life is this drug-fueled, almost orgy of experiences that are going on. And then you got, like, that chorus, which is, again, probably his love song to drugs, because every one of the Shady albums has that love song to drugs.
Yep.
So while he's introducing himself as Shady, this is kind of looking at what's going on behind the scenes of the Shady character, the real life Eminem that was fueling it. So then when you get to verse 3, oh, those were the days, they certainly were. It's hurting me to know that I'll be closing that curtain for good. This is a moment on the album where we break the fourth wall to remind the listener that he's not a psychotic, and to kind of maybe take a step back and think about it, but to point out, like, this is also his efforts to recreate this Slim Shady character, this psychotic shit, completely sober without the drugs, you know? So, like, he points out here, we first hear about his emergency surgery, which if you'd been following in real life, you would have known had happened. But, like, let's say looking back, it really prefaces to kind of give you a little foreshadowing as to what's to come as it's going on. And, you know, the painkillers I believe he's on are muscle relaxants, Paxils, and it's almost like the drugs have shifted, right? Like, it went from being, yeah, there's a 51-person orgy and I hope I used a condom, to,
Yep.
oh my gosh, I got back pain and, oh, shit, I need to, you know, deal with that. So, like, the age of the drugs has shifted. The degree of the drugs have shifted. It went from drugs are fun, wow, I'm famous, to, oh my gosh, whatever. And it's almost like this is also kind of what happened to Slim Shady. So within the song, it's the story of Slim Shady, and within the album, it's the part where Slim Shady comes to life and becomes a thing, which is further explored in the next patch of his career, if we think about it, as we look at the next few songs, which is the next chapter of this album's story. This is, so between Insane to Hello is like the inception of Slim Shady. Dr. West to My Mom is I had a relapse, and here's the backstory and how we got there, you know, and it kind of builds up to that shit.
Okay.
Right? Do you see where I'm coming from?
I see it, but I mean,
it really ties together later on. I pinky swear promise. This gets better. Like, this story fits right up until I have trouble with Underground. Underground is the only one I have trouble wrapping up into my story. Okay? That's how much I put thought into this. But it makes me really rethink the art. Like, of all the Eminem albums we've covered, this one might have the most cohesive track-by-track story, but it's also the only Eminem album that also had one producer almost run through the whole thing. So this is plausible that this was all deliberate, okay? Anyway, have you given your grade on Hello?
Yes.
I gave this shit a 4.5 on 5. To me, it's a brilliant song, well put together. It's kind of where because there's so much truth in it. This isn't just some crazy shit.
Yes.
Even back then, you can feel the difference between the fantasy side of Eminem and what's based in the real life. Anyway, the next track on this album is a skit, and it's about Tonya.
Fuck, my fucking OnStar isn't working. I left my fucking phone at...
All right, Bonnie, how do you think of this little interlude?
Well, it's 42 seconds, and it's basically a girl is basically trying to flag down any car to help her. It's pouring rain. Her car, I guess, broke down. And it sounds very like movie-esque. Like you can like visually see everything that's happening, even though it's just sound. So it's pretty well done. And then, so like, this guy pulls over and lets her in, and she's like, oh, thank you so much, blah, blah, blah. And then he pulls out tape and basically starts attacking her and like tying her up, and she's freaking out. And that's pretty much it. It's well done. I gave it a 4.25.
So I feel like on every album, there's a couple of songs where Eminem will do this little skit thing leading into a song just to create some dramatic effect, and I do believe it's usually done to signal to us, the listener, that a chapter of the album is being shifted to something else, which is a really effective use of skits and interludes on your project if you're trying to create a deeper concept album. I don't want to go too much into who Tonya is or what my theory on Tonya is, because it's more...
Is it Tonya Harding?
I don't know, but I have a feeling, because it relates to what my thoughts are on the next one, and I don't know that Tonya is a person in particular based on my theory, but it could be that is what it is. I don't know what year the Tonya Harding thing happened in.
Like early 90s.
But yeah, either way, Elizabeth Keener was the voice actor on it, which I thought was cool. She was on the L Word, if you followed that, so that's fun.
I watched that for a couple of seasons.
And then yeah, it just plays out, and it's like the way that this person feels like they need to be saved because of a circumstance, and then they trust this stranger who lets them into the car, and then he takes advantage of them, and it's really hard for me to hear this without the next song. So I mean, it's a great fucking skit. It's a 4.5 on 5. Like, as far as the production value of the skit goes,
yeah, it's pretty good.
It's basically up there with the one right before Soldier. And the way it flows into the next song, it's as essential. Like, almost Soldier doesn't make sense without that skit before it, building up the context as to why he feels the way he does. And then in the same way, this builds into the next song so perfectly that it almost belongs every time you hear it, except that, come on, let's be real, we all skip skits. Anyway, 4.5 on 5. Beautiful thing. Meanwhile, sometimes week over week album reviews all the time, it just feels like the same song and dance.
And slick stunts and Nickelodeon flashed the little kids once. What an event it was. I was...
All right, Bonnie, go for it. I want to talk after, so just do it. Do what you gotta do.
So I don't know how great of a job I'm going to do at breaking this down, and I'm sure you will. So I'll just kind of get through what I have to say. So like the guy, I think he's just kind of talking about guys like attacking girls so easily, especially when they're, the guys seem nice and they seem trusting, and that's kind of like, what we, just heard about. Like, it's like a good transition, like straight into this, and it has a pretty decent beat. It kind of sounds ominous a little bit.
It is one of the best beats on this album.
Okay. You heard it here, folks. He is specifically talking about I'm going to just kind of skip over things because I know you're going to cover a lot of it.
All of it. I have a theory.
Yeah. Oh, he's got theories. And he is specifically talking about in the second verse about Lindsay Lohan and how she was kind of and still sometimes maybe attacked in like the public eye and like in tabloids, and even by like himself. Like, he admits to like kind of making fun of her. And this is sort of like the kind of trouble and drama that often people who grow up like in the spotlight tend to often face, and because they're constantly watched. And so when people go crazy, it's sort of like everybody kind of swarms on them, and it just makes things even worse. Like, it just like escalates like any issues or anxieties or anything that they were going through at the time. It just makes things so much worse when everybody's criticizing and picking on them, and like there's cameras shoved in their faces and stuff like that. Like, I mean, that would just drive me nuts. So like, I get it. It just making the tough times tougher. And the third verse is basically about Britney Spears and kind of like how he kind of became obsessed with her and was kind of turned on by her. And I don't know, he kind of makes a reference, unless I just misunderstood it, that like Britney may also be on like some pills, but I don't remember ever hearing that, so I don't know if that's true or if I just like kind of misread something. But like, I mean, she's still like the same sort of thing. Like, she grew up in front of the public eye, and people are constantly having issues with her, and you know, again, same sort of thing, like the result of just constantly being observed, and being watched and like criticizing for everything that they do, and just, you know, it makes it very difficult. Like, even like more recently, like Britney went to like therapy or whatever, and like she kind of like chilled off, you know, wasn't online so much, and just right away, like, everybody was making these huge claims as to what was happening to her, that, you know, this and that and the other thing, and it was just like nonsense. She had to just be like, guys, just mind your own fucking business, kind of like, yeah. And so for me, like, I found this one pretty interesting, and it touches on some like realistic issues, but again, not necessarily the most relevant issues that are still happening today. Obviously, there's going to be with different people, but like, just in terms of like what the people that he's talking about isn't necessarily relevant. And just like how people often can't escape, just like kind of like that public perception of them, and like what's going on, and how it isn't necessarily like what's going on in their lives, and kind of like the backstory and like kind of the behind the scenes story of like their lives isn't always what we see in the public. And I think that's just sort of what it's about. So for me, like, it was interesting, and it's a good song, but I didn't think it was necessarily like a hit. So I gave it a 4.2 on 5.
I mean, I definitely think he touched on to the crux of what he's trying to do with this, but like, I think it serves a dual role again. So on the one part, it's kind of reflecting on his career in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Because he too has been in that circumstance.
But more in a different way. I think he has selected targets, and that he has almost preyed on them and used abusing these people in his rhymes extensively as a means to garner attention for his success and to join into the bandwagon. So I think it kind of correlates stardom as a female with the idea of being like almost sexually assaulted, right? And it makes this connection. So, I mean, look at the way, same song and dance, damn girl, everywhere I go, same song and dance, I like the way you move all over the globe, same song and dance, something about it, man, same song and dance. And he's right.
And
This
often
shit-
it was like the same song and dance, because I remember like in both of their music videos, probably around the same time, they were both just like gyrating on a pole.
But even on top of that, this isn't just them, right? It's literally women all over the world going through the same thing, which is surprisingly conscious and self-aware coming from a song about raping these people. But like on
Yeah.
the other hand, I think it's meant to be like a self-aware satirical thing, right? Because again, this is reflection back on his career. And the next part of the album after he meets Dr. Dre is he starts lampooning celebrity after celebrity. He starts lampooning pop culture, but he takes specific victims, you know, people like Mariah Carey, Britney Spears, Lindsay Lohan, like
Jessica
Eminem,
Simpson.
which we'll get to, because like, so I think it's fair to say that Eminem went in hard on both Lindsay Lohan and Britney Spears, and at this point in time, both those women have cracked. Like, society has destroyed them. Which is where I think it's so whatever. He does the first verse. He's like, I'm looking at you, yeah, girl. You kind of taken aback by the whole rapper thing, aren't you? Probably thinking you'll get slapped so dang hard you won't even be able to stand up straight, aren't you? You know, a couple of rape charges. People think you're a monster. And, you know, it's kind of like painting this picture of this is how people see hip-hop and the way hip-hop treats them. But in a sense, maybe this is how hip-hop treats women, and how a couple of things and people look at you, etc. And how maybe there is this sense of people preying on like, again, this is surprisingly conscious for what it is, you know. I walk up on you, well, hello, Tonya, and he sees you and like, I'm gonna take advantage of you. But in a sense, if you think about what the Slim Shady character would do, he'd be like, what vulnerable women out there, what joke can I make out of this person, who can I use from my point of view? But if we take a step back and look at the rapist as, instead of just being Eminem himself, but tabloid news, This is how they treat people. And then and Eminem was part of this shit too. He contributed, and I think that's why it's here, because he personally attacked these two women that got destroyed by the tabloid, and in a sense used that tabloid nonsense to fuel his music, to attack them further, to make fun of them. You know, he was also part of the tabloid life, so tabloiding in general, like his ass ended up on the so like he's very attached to it as well. But I think there's like simultaneously the reflection of his actions also being part of this problem, which is interesting. Then you look at that chorus, yeah baby, do that dance, it's the last dance you'll ever get the chance to do, go be psycho crazy, we want that shit, we need it so bad, shake that ass, you ain't ever gonna break that glass, the windshield's too strong for you. Oh, you think you're gonna go to rehab, you think you're gonna clean up your life, you're gonna break out of this little car we put here for you? Nah, you are not escaping the cameras and the fucking exploitation. We will break you, we will bring you back down.
Also like
you
a reference,
trapped.
I think kind of to maybe the glass ceiling that women often have to like fight to like break through.
Because of their bodies. Like, again, layers of hella conscious shady coming through.
Yeah.
Like, it's fucking weird. I wasn't expecting this going into it, but it really is that, like, layered. And then he goes into Lindsay Lohan, where I don't know that she was his first victim. I thought Britney was first, but maybe I'm wrong. Either way, I don't think it's the point. And this is still from the perception of the media. They did clip Lindsay first, and then they destroyed Britney around the same time, though.
Yeah.
And, you know, like, she was always known for little pranks and stick stunts at Nickelodeon, flashed to little kids once. What an event it was. I was sitting in front. I was hooked backstage in the buns. And yeah, apparently Lindsay Lohan flashed her butt cheeks at the Nickelodeon Kids Awards in 2006. That's what that line's referencing. He was hooked when he looked at her butts, and, you know, she's a little youngster, and maybe, you know, whatever. Maybe she's not that young, but, like, relative, whatever. And then he kind of, all the scandals and all the moments of getting caught. And, yo, if you look up Kate Middleton, just on a side note, the amounts of, like, every time Kate Middleton is slightly showed off any skin pictures out, I got curious. I was like, didn't Kate Middleton, is she the one that had her topless pics caught one day? So I wanted to fact check that. I went down a rabbit hole. People go out of their way to find Kate Middleton half naked as much as possible.
Well, I mean, I think like she was like very much like the it girl for like a hot minute.
But still, like the way they almost look for opportunities to see her ass or to get these upskirt shots, or the fact that they were getting on these women's vaginas in the tabloids because they didn't want to wear panties. Like, fuck it. Don't ruin that for the rest of us. That's what I'm trying to say. And then, you know, like, come with me to Brighton, which I believe is his rehab, the place is going. Let me relieve your tension. And then he proceeds to murder her. But if you think about what the tabloids and the media actually did to Lindsay, they destroyed Lindsay Lohan, okay? That girl had a career.
Yeah.
She was on that 70s show. Shit, yeah, she was dating Dez for a while.
Yeah.
And anyway, so shit's popping off, and then what? She does a Snow White knockoff movie and nothing since. I think she's had stuff. I don't really know anything since. Or no, that's Amanda Bynes. That's or somebody else. That wasn't Lindsay Lohan.
So I'm like, what are you
Sydney
talking
White,
about?
I think's the name of the movie I'm thinking of. Anyway.
That's Hilary Duff.
Wow. No, I don't. Is it? I don't think so. It's either Amanda Bynes. It was either Amanda Bynes. Amanda Bynes was. I had such a crush on her once upon a time. Her and Lindsay, those two I liked. But she's another one that got destroyed as second she started getting into drugs and they started exploiting
Yeah, but she
her.
also went crazy too. So.
But like she wasn't as popular as the other ones. But
well, Lindsay Lohan blew up because of like, I mean, she, like I said, she grew up in like the spotlight, and so she did have like Parent Trap, Freaky Friday, Mean Girls, which is like her biggest hit, I think. Like what really blew up. But so I mean, she was like in a lot of like movies like at that time.
And then, yeah, the third verse is about Britney, and again, it plays up like, yo, I shouldn't have had a crush on you back in the day because there's no reason that 16-year-old you was presented to me as sexually as you were. Again, pointing out the weird pedophilic nature of our society. Like, we can judge pedophiles all we want, but how the hell is it okay?
But we're selling sex to them.
You know, like, what do you think that, like,
underage.
As much as the 16-year-olds are watching, you think that there are some dads watching too, and that's part of why it's being done? You think that the record executives didn't know that grown men are gonna, like, you know, like, I can only imagine, like stuff like Bad Baby or whatever, teenage girl there from Cash Me Outside girl. I mean, you can only imagine the people trying to find shit about her, So like that's kind of why, because why is that girl allowed to be half naked selling it with grown ass rappers? She's in videos with grown ass men. This is today and now, like just to show you that maybe there's still a weird issue. Like, what do you think the Cash Me Outside girl is gonna be like at like 30? Did we not put her through this meat grinder? Is she not a teenager?
Yep.
Is that not ethically wrong of all of us on some level for consistently destroying the self-esteem of a 14-year-old girl trying to make it out the hood? What does that say about us, right?
Yeah.
And I think that line of thinking is, weirdly enough, what Eminem is going for in this track. Now, let's talk about an incredible rhyme, because his rhyming is pretty good on this. I don't know that we can say it every single time his rhyme is good, but do you know what value rhymes with? Nothing. It's like purple. It's one of those words that doesn't have a natural rhyme. Eminem said, shut the fuck up. I've been feeling you. Ooh, ooh, girl, you sexy little gal, you. Hold that pill any longer, it'll get sentimental value. Come on, toots, give me the volume. Alley, oop. I'll slam dunk it in the mouth till you puke. And I had to give it to him the way he like fucking rhymes it all.
I mean, that's what he's good at doing, right?
So,
like that's really what he's good at.
Because I know that all of y'all that really know the song would be like mad at me if I did not point out how incredible that particular rhyme was. So I wanted you to know that I agree with you. It's fucking
he loves a good challenge.
Next level.
He loves a good rhyming challenge when people like give him something that they think is going to be impossible for him to rhyme, and he's like, nothing's impossible. Like he can make everything sound like another sound. And so I think that's always really cool that he does that.
And so while all of this is a metaphorical commentary on this trend, Eminem's an active participant. And I think that's why Tonya's there, because Eminem's looking for his next victim as he's painting out this picture, in a sense, right?
Okay.
And I don't know that it's from a perspective of he's actually actively trying to do that per se, which I would say he has his next victim. We find out who Tonya might be on the next song as an example. But I think it's because the next few songs start to show off this next part of his career and a little bit of the consequences. So this same song and dance that everyone's participating in, including Eminem, especially at this part of his career. So he's growing up as a young MC, getting worldwide fame in a point where tabloid entertainment is king. So if you want to be buzzing and you want to be relevant, you got to be the tabloids. So that's an interesting thing, right? I bet some of you knew all this coming into this song, but there's probably a couple of you, I'm hoping, that were like, damn, that was insightful. I'm hoping. I'm not trying to toot my own horn here, but I figured that out like earlier today, and I was like, wow. Anyway, so the level of depth on this is crazy. This I suppose is satire at its finest form, because it's so far from obvious until you understand why it's obvious. And then it turns out that this song about raping and murdering, or let's say murdering women, is satirically in defense of women. That's A-game satire, right?
I guess, yeah. I feel like most people, that's me. Like, I don't know. I feel like the general one-time, two-time listeners won't get that.
But when you're think about it,
you have to really know like the whole story.
But is that not what we're supposed to be doing with albums, in a sense, when we listen to them?
Yeah.
Instead of just superficially judging that type of shocking shit. Like Eminem has had that level of layered political satire throughout his whole thing.
He has.
Like even when he was saying I'm gonna kill them fags back in the day, it was about pushing the lines of what's appropriate to say in an era where censorship was dumb. So now it's like, anyway, there was always a point to it, and I didn't realize how cool this particular song was. So I'm giving it a 5, because I think it might be one of the best pieces of satire I've ever encountered. Like, this is South Park level quality for the satire realm of quality, because it's so not obvious, but then you see it and you're like, oh fuck, eh? Oh shit. That's what satire I think is supposed to be. Unfortunately, we live in an era where it's necessary to put that disclaimer. If you're a new content creator, don't assume anyone's going to think it's obvious. No one's going to think it's obvious. But when you figure it out, it's fucking cool. Anyway, once you've found out your next target, we go on to the classic Eminem lampooning fucking pop culture song, which is
We made you.
Are you telling me tenderness? Well, I can be as gentle and as smooth as a gentleman. Give me my Ventolin inhaler and
So We Made You to me is like Eminem fully just reliving Without Me and all of that other shit. So from the thematic point of the album, he's recognized the pattern of lampooning people in same song and dance as he's created this serial killer type person, and like this is what's worked for his career.
Yeah.
And it's so fucking routine that he creates the ultimate parody of himself almost.
Yeah.
And he's making, because let's be real, he had Just Lose It. He had fucking Without Me. I don't remember if Encore had one of these songs or that was Just Lose It.
There was what, Shake Your Ass? When was that? That came out?
Shake Your Ass was another good one, but that's different. Shake Your Ass is a good one. We got requested to do those extra songs off of Curtain Calls, so we'll definitely look into getting those squeezed into something in the future. But yeah, so then we get to this point where We Made You is like, it's like he identifies the behavior in his last song, and to drill home what the fuck he's talking about, guess who? Do you miss me? Jessica Simpson! This is the next Tonya. So Tonya to me was like this indescript person who was just gonna be the next victim, the next female celebrity. Hell, he might have even written it without knowing who the fuck was gonna be the person he's gonna lampoon in the beginning of, you know, like, and it was just to be this, it's always gonna be somebody else. It's always gonna be another person.
There's always gonna be another girl.
And it's always gonna be some chick that they mark up in a certain way. Like, look at Miley Cyrus and tell me she doesn't, in a while, her life in recent years didn't fit that. I don't know who the next
But
one
then
is.
again, her too, like she's somebody that grew up in the spotlight. So I think that's also, you know, same
all
sort
of
of
them,
thing.
all of these people that we do that to end up having the same kind of career path. They were kids who
Well,
got.
Drew Barrymore, she was an example of that too. She grew up in the spotlight.
She was doing like coke at 11
and like
shit.
like
or
she went
serious
through
shit.
some real like shit, but like early on, and you know she's cleaned herself up. You know, she's much better now.
Anyway, and then so Eminem does this, and this is the lead single. So at this point, Crack a Bottle has already been out, and so we'd heard it, but this is the real lead single to the album. And you start it up, and you got the video, and it really is lampooning Without Me with the porn stars in the bed and everything. And then it goes Jessica Simpson sing the chorus, and then Trisha Paytas shows up.
Yes.
So on the one hand, she's supposed to be the.
This is like her like the prime of her career.
It really is. This and Dogs Are Fucking Blah 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 video. Or,
That was the very first video I ever saw of hers actually, because I was like, what the fuck is this girl? And
Yeah,
then
that's
like
what
you
we
just
all
fall
saw.
into like the rabbit hole that is
and
Trisha
it's just
Paytas.
drama. And then most recently, she had a crying on. I know this because I live with her. She had a
I've
crying.
unsubscribed
stopped,
from
but
her
for a while it was
because
just,
I couldn't
gosh,
take it
awful.
anymore. Like
And then she hangs out with Shane Dawson for some reason because that
they're
gets.
friends. They've been
which is
friends for
weird.
a long time.
Anyway, so you hear about her, and then most recently H3 made fun of her, and that was a thing. And so she was crying on the floor. She made her response to him. Anyway, so she's singing it, but then
But she's supposed to be like the Jessica Simpson parody, but at the same time she's also supposed to be, because she's eating a burger and what's I think it's Arby's, or it's one of
Yeah.
those restaurants where like they're like the girl was like supposed to be like sexily eating like a burger, like it was something that was very sexualized.
And it's like, and then Eminem's
Maybe it
behind
wasn't
her,
Arby's,
like
I don't wanna, like-
grinding on her and shit. Which I was thinking, man, she got to have like Eminem's penis basically grinded
She
against her.
because I have followed her for so much, she did like a video where she talked about like every encounter that she had with like a celebrity and how a lot of them are just gross douchebags. She had nothing bad to say about Eminem. She thought he was very nice. He was totally respectful and fun and like very like took care of anything that she needed. Like he was very like, she only has like high praise for Eminem. So I think that that's like, again, like a nice thing to hear about, you know, about him.
Yeah, and then in the video, it's a really interesting video. I watched it earlier today, and so at the beginning of it, it's like there's a lineup of like who's gonna be like the mystery girl and for the goof of Eminem this time around. And then the video plays out, and Eminem takes on all these different roles and all these different characters, and ends up having interactions with all these different women. Like he makes out with the odd one at the end, and Dr. Dre and them in their Star Trek are just like, oh. But like, It's a really good point about like how hot women are used to show off unhealthy food just to sell sex. Like, there's no way the women are eating Arby's every day and not ending up looking a little more like Trisha
Yeah.
than Jessica. And no disrespect to Trisha. At that point, she looked alright. Not even gonna lie, she looks pretty good in that video.
Yeah.
What she looks like today is a little weird because of all the fake shit she's
Like
done to herself.
she's lost weight, she's gained weight, she's had plastic surgery, she's had
She gets,
liposuction,
like,
she's gained weight, she's
gastric
worked
bypass
out. Like,
surgery and shit, or lipo.
and she just doesn't maintain anything.
Because she then makes videos of mukbangs where she eats a whole. Anyway, so what she is now
12
is not the
pizzas
same.
and just-
But like, it is an interesting point, right? Like, why are these people used in marketing like that? Or anyway, so that's its own little problem. But like, I thought the video was cool because it was almost like, what stereotype is Eminem gonna be this week? What character are we gonna play? What tabloid-like nonsense is gonna happen this time as you play it out? You know, like. And then there's the scene with him dating Kim Kardashian's ass and it's just popping out and shit. Like, I wonder if
Like,
Eminem.
it's just so weird.
I just wonder if Eminem knew how big Kim Kardashian's ass was going to get in terms of modern
Broke
culture.
the internet, remember?
Because, like, that's the thing. It's like every other reference like that is super dated. But then, damn, I think Kim Kardashian's a man. She stomped him just because he asked to put his hands on her massive gluteus maximus again. Squeeze it, then squish it, then pass it to Kanye. I mean, I thought, whatever. That line right there is probably, like, the funniest part because the gluteus maximus is the fatty part of your ass. And he's dropping science terms on us while describing her butt. And at that point, she maybe isn't being viewed as the most esteemed business tycoon lady of today. She had recently done the sex tape, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
And then, just rating women on the news and shit. And I know you're going to talk about Portia and the Ellen DeGeneres, but not like Eminem is just kind of like using random names and shit and like, oh, Ellen's a lesbian, well, it's Portia's a lesbian, I'm better than you, Ellen.
And like at this time, like Lindsay Lohan was, claiming to be a lesbian and was going out with Samantha, I want to say Rothschild
gosh,
or
you wanna-
Rothstein or something like that. She was a DJ. And so, I mean, like there was that, and she says, come back to seeing men, and so it was just sort of crazy, like all that was going on.
And then and little did I mention that Jennifer's in love with me, John Mayer, so sit on the bench, and you're like, Jennifer dated John Mayer?
Jennifer Aniston dated John
And then they
Mayer.
broke up, right?
Yeah.
So that's so far ago that you don't even realize what the fuck this reference
No.
is. Man, I swear to mother, guys, you give him an inch, they take a mile. They got style, but it isn't slim. Now, he's right. The amount of Eminem clones that appeared, none of them were really slim. Anyway, what was interesting, too, is Dina Ray, I think, is the singer who is his go-to girl on all the other problems. Now, if you ever go down the rabbit hole, around this time, something happens between Eminem and Dina Ray. They may or may not have intercoursed, but basically she gets discarded without warning to a point where she writes these like diss songs at Eminem and shit that obviously nobody's heard about. I did because I got curious. And you can find them if you really dig around. And so now Charmaine Tripp is the new girl on this one. So this is, the clear marking of the end of Dina Ray. I believe it has something to do with Kim being jealous, or they had beef with Kim or something. I could be wrong. I'm remembering from a while ago.
Didn't Skylar, what's her face, get involved like with him for a while?
Skylar Grey came in like later on in the picture. At this point in time, Skylar Grey had done the song with Fort Minor, Where'd You Go?
Okay.
And she was still going by like Heather Brooks and was soon to become Skylar Grey and kind of move into, I think Skylar Grey ends up writing Love the Way You Lie, the original version, which turns into like all that other shit.
Okay.
But yeah, this song kind of flows through and it's just like silly Eminem, blah, 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 kind of flows like... And it is the enforcer, looking for more women to torture. Walk up to the cutest girl and Charlie Horser. Sorry, Portia, what's Ellen DeGeneres have that I don't? Are you telling me tenderness? And it's just like, okay, we've been here, we've done that. But like when you really think about it, he's lampooning himself too. Like he's owning how kind of stupid all of these songs kind of are a little bit by making it so fucking preposterous and ridiculous in a sense. I think that's the goal he's trying to go for here. I mean... I don't know. I don't have a lot to say with that. And then there's the little bridge where it's like nothing really happens there to me. Third verse comes in. Like none of these lines are like super great to me. I'll be honest. It's just a lot of out of date cultural references. But again, its role in the album is really interesting, right? Because this is the same song and dance of a Slim Shady fucking come after everybody song. Almost like he's bored of it, so he's just going over the top. He's Sarah Palin, like Kim Kardashian.
Yeah,
like it's like
very
he
dated.
went from but it's also like look at the examples he's using. He went from using actually interesting, pointed people to like Sarah Palin. I know she was relevant.
She was very relevant at the time.
Was she?
And she was...
Was Jessica Alba relevant back then?
No. She's never been relevant. I mean, I think she's, Justin Timberlake's wife or whatever.
Was she the one from Seventh Heaven, or is that Jessica Biel?
Who knows? Too many Jessicas.
Anyway.
Basic white girls. Even I can't tell them apart.
Either way, I mean, I like the end when he's like, "Oh, Amy, rehab never looked so good. I can't wait. I'm going back. Dr. Dre, 2020." I wonder if Eminem's going back. Imagine Detox drops in 2020 and like it was just a big ploy all along, because that's next year, so we can verify. Still,
Verify, yeah.
either way, it's just kind of goofy and whatever, but like it's the silly whirlwind Eminem song. It's what it's supposed to be. I also imagine it serves the purpose that if you're the next generation, you know, all the kids that are now coming in, because by now all of the original Eminem fans have gone up about 10 years. And like I said, my group is now coming in as old enough to go to his shows and stuff, so this was our version of that song. Honestly, you play it a bunch. I don't ever hate it. I don't love it like I like the other versions, but it's so well made that I'm giving it a 4.5.
Yeah. I mean, this is like one of the only songs that I know from this album. Like, that's something that I listened to and like knew before I went in again this week and listened to it. You know, and you know, like you said, Trisha Paytas is in the video, so I definitely paid attention to it. The beat is catchy, and like he talks about a bunch of girls, including Lindsay Lohan, which he talks about in the last one, so it was kind of confusing why he did that on the last one. But you know, often, you know, celebrities acting in certain ways and whatever, just because of like the pressures that they have on them, and he's just kind of like criticizing like celebrities in this video, and like the way that we create and then we destroy a lot of celebrities. And then he shows like, you know, kind of like poor Amy Winehouse, like and like she was like very like much like scrutinized in like the tabloids before she died. And like, you know, and for years, like even like myself, like I thought she was cool. I thought she was like she was like my idol. I was like, I want to be just like her. Like there was like a picture of her like taking a shot while holding a baby, and like she was just like that, like at that time, for like, you know, like my partying like young wild years, like that's, you know, I was like, she's great, she's crazy and wild, and I don't want to be just like her. And but you know, obviously not quite to the point where she, you know, she ended up killing herself. Well, not, she overdosed, but I mean, it was very, very sad, like just like the whole outcome of what happened to her, and I always felt for her a lot. But you know, probably people don't necessarily know. Like, does like the next generation even know who Amy Winehouse is? Like, probably not, unless they hear like Rehab being played 24 hours a day. But anyways, it's just sort of like the criticism that people like hear so much from like their fans and from tabloids and from people just needing to like stir the pot and make a story about these people. It just becomes like all of these lies that are spouted about them makes them feel like, is this who I am? Is this what I should be? Like, is this what people are saying about me? Then I guess I should be this way or whatever. Like, there's probably a lot of self-doubt. And, you know, he kind of makes a joke like where he kind of looks forward to his next drug overdose, which is pretty like shitty, I guess, when as he just came out of rehab and stuff, and he's supposed to be feeling better, and he's kind of assuming like, you know, something's going to push him to the brink again, that's going to make him turn to pills or drugs or drinking or whatever again, and it's not, it's going to be a same sort of terrible situation because he's not really escaping the situation. He's putting himself back into the spotlight. And I think he's definitely more fragile than he appears to be. I think that he kind of forgets that. And I think that's why, often, the criticism and, because he's so crazy and wild in his lyrics and his songs and who he is and what he does, he definitely gets a lot of negative attention brought to him at the same time as the good stuff comes to him. So there's definitely there's never, it's not like everybody thinks that he's great, period. There's always a bunch of extra crap that kind of comes along with it. And so, yeah, I don't know. I mean, this one, it's a good song, and for nostalgia, I enjoy listening to it, and it's fun and goofy. But I don't think that it's necessarily the hit on this song, but it's one of the best hits on this album, I would say. So I give it a 4.5 on 5.
So just when I thought I was out of things to say about this song, I thought of more things to say about this song, because there's the whole other side of the conversation. So Eminem is actively lampooning all of these people. And then if you think about the chorus, everybody wants you, player, who can really blame you? We're the ones who made you. Mm-hmm. Now think about the tabloids and the people and the way that we make fun of these celebrities. Now this has maybe become a more nuanced and we've evolved our opinion as a culture conversation since 2009, hopefully. But I mean, you look at the way YouTubers are treated and people stalking them and people showing up at their houses and shit. One of the more common reactions, especially with a more youthful group, is, what did you expect? You went ahead and got yourself all famous. You deserve everything that gets. We, the audience, made you so we can say what we want to you and treat you how you want. So in a sense, what Eminem is doing by lampooning all of these celebrities in this particular instance of We Made You, with the self-awareness we learned about on Same Song and Dance, is satirically lampooning everyone to give an example of how, because Eminem's jokes on these series of songs, it's the kind of shit we as people would make fun of these celebrities by saying, haha, Kim Kardashian's a man. I bet at the time a lot of people were throwing that around on Twitter, and I bet if you look at most of the things he's actually made fun of in this particular song, as opposed to maybe Moby Line, who nobody got the fuck to, why did he bring up Moby in that song? But aside of that shit, right, you look at this, everything he mentions, when I really started thinking about it, this is Twitter. It's kind of what people were saying. So he's actually looking at the way people are actually making their little jokes and showing, and then when you respond, oh, you can't treat me like that. Oh, it's rude to make fun of Ellen being a lesbian. Yo, listen, Ellen, we're the ones who made you. You are going to take our jokes and take our money and take our abuse and shut the fuck up. We made you. Now, I don't think I'm reading too much into that. I think if you look at the other side of what Eminem's doing with this album, it's showing through satire and parody how this is actually playing out. And I didn't realize that until we were talking about it right now, which I wanted to tell everybody, because I was thinking about that title, We Made You. That's what people say to famous people when they torture them. Yep. Which is the same song.
It's very much like Frankenstein. It's that kind of thing. It's where you make something and then it's when it doesn't act the way that you intended it to act, it's, the whole thing goes to shit.
All right. And then the next song in this little segment in the story of the album is, I believe, Eminem looking at his own role in all of this with the medicine ball.
In my medicine ball, you're in my medicine ball, friends. On my west side, bitches throw it.
It took me a while. It was actually while listening to Medicine Ball that I think a lot of this album started to fall together for me, and I started to think about themes and bigger purposes. It wasn't until a few tracks later that I saw the whole story of the album, the way that it clicked in for me. But now let's consider the last two songs. So Eminem has identified for us the way we lampoon and torture people. Eminem has shown that he is both an active participant and a victim, and just kind of playing into the Twitter landscape, all the jokes, what everybody else is finding funny and shit. And then we learn about how Eminem copes with shit. What is a medicine ball? It's like a thing used to help you through therapy to deal with shit. So we look at the chorus. I guess it's time for you to hate me again. Let's begin. Now hand me the pen. How should I begin and where does it all end? The world is just my medicine ball. You're all in. So think about what he's really trying to say there. All these people I write about, all of these rhymes, all of these references, this is just like my therapy. This is just how I get through the day. This is how I cope with the situation and the way. And keep in mind, this is still the Slim Shady character. This is still the whirlwind of his life at that point in time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he's he's still kind of blowing up. I kind of picture this being in the early part, 2003, 4, shit like that's flying. Encore hasn't happened yet, you know, and he's just like pushing through this whole thing. So this song kind of is just Eminem going on that Slim Shady psycho spree again, being a dope track in and of itself, playing into it. It's pretty good. Like rhyming wise, it's really solid. Like at first I was like, I don't know if I like Medicine Ball, because back in the day I didn't. But then it's just really cool rhyming. So the first part's like really going in on, I guess, like welcome to the Slim Shady Mecca, Rebecca. It's the village in New York right next to the Tribeca, which is the gay village of New York, apparently. That's my sector, homosexual dissector. And I'm like, wait, what? He's going to kill them. Oh, come again, rewind selector. Like, play that back. Forget about that line. I said, nice rectum. I had a vasectomy, Hector, so you can't get pregnant if I bisexually wreck you. So it's like he realized he said the wrong thing, so he pulls it back and goes, well, listen, I had a vasectomy, so I can bum sex you and you won't get pregnant, showing this, like, pure ignorance to how, like, gay shit works and playing. Like, that's kind of what Slim Shady was, this goofy character playing through it, you know? Mm-hmm. Hannibal Lecter in the guy section. I bet you I tantalize you in less than 5 seconds. I get you. They say once bitten, then twice shy. Will lie to the next guy with 9 XD pills and 5 extra boxes of rib condoms and quantities by Esther. And then I said, with all the X he did, he probably did maybe fuck a guy. Like, he did a lot of ecstasy. Mm-hmm. Now, everybody knows if you've done that shit, there's the dudes don't touch your friends because you might like it rule, just in case.
Well, I think it's just like you're overwhelmed by sensation,
like,
right? Like,
if he was like on...
It's not necessarily that it's a gay thing or whatever. Yeah. It's just the sensation.
I'm not implying Eminem did this. I'm saying if he was on that much X, it's a lot more likely that something may have happened one time nobody heard about. Just because that's what X will do to you. Not
X
DMX.
Gonna give it to you.
Yeah. That's funny. Anyway, and then it's kind of shocking or whatever. And then the second verse, like, I like when it's like, put a balloon inside your pussy, queef, and blow it up. Man, I think you just fell off the deep end, and sure enough. So you better change the station to keep from throwing that, man. You've seen it all before. You're all too familiar with it. There's a penis on the floor and 2 balls, so you know who did it. It's kind of vapid. It's kind of whatever. It's not like I'm trying to defend this like it's the most intelligent shit done. But at the same time, picturing the balloon inside blowing up, it's got a comical edge to it. It's creative. It's clever. It mentions a band nobody remembers, the Pussycat Dolls. Don't you think your girlfriend was hot? Like, yeah, if you're young, you probably don't remember that shit. He'll pee on Rihanna. C-Man, I do what I wanna. Fast forward to Kill Shot. He just hit Rihanna on the text. That's funny, right? You know, because they ended up becoming good friends and shit. And then we get to the third verse, which, I don't know, the first 2 verses is fine. It's like top level, not so shocking, really. Like, it's a lot less shocking and weird than you would think it is. It's kind of safe. Mm-hmm. And then he's just kind of, again, making a point. Like, I almost have to make this shit because this is what you want from me. This is A, my therapy, but B, it's also what pays me because y'all like my medicine ball. Y'all want it.
Yep.
And then Christopher Reeves, I believe, is dead at this point. I don't remember when he died.
Yeah.
But
I can't remember the year, but he was definitely dead at this time.
And then he just does this little Christopher Reeves thing, raps about him, put Christopher Reeves on a unicycle with a kickstand, kick it up, push him, and laid him right into the quicksand. Here you need a hand, big man, grab hold of this branch with both hands. They don't understand, I'm just a sick man. Now everyone's pissed at me, like it's my fault his name rhymes with so many different words. Jeez. And that's an interesting point. Like, A, it did rhyme with a lot of words. Eminem has proven that because he's rapped a lot about Christopher Reeves and Superman and shit. But also to the point of, like, Why y'all mad at Eminem for dissing Christopher Reeves just because he's dead and shit? Like, again, it's where you draw that line and shit. I bet in a comedy movie, if, like, I don't know.
I always found it weird that he dissed him, period. Like, I was like, he's an old man. Like, leave him alone.
But I think it's just because his name rhymed with shit, and then people started making a big fuss about it, so he kept running with it because that seems to be the kind he was. But really, when he goes, Eminem, I'm coming to kill you. Always hated you and I still do. You'll never feel my shoes, my Superman costume. Doesn't even fit you, they don't feel you. That part is amazing because he does the Christopher Reeves thing and it's so disrespectful.
Yeah.
But it's really funny. And it is, and you know what? It probably made a lot of people mad. And now 10 years has gone by and nobody's mad. Literally nobody's going, oh, that's disrespectful. Because 10 years has gone by and nobody fucking cares about Christopher Reeves being dead. So at the end of the day...
Nobody really cares about, like, Eminem anymore either.
That's not entirely true. Eminem's still breaking... You know, he broke every record.
I know that he is still great.
No.
I'm not saying that I don't like him.
Broke records. You got to keep in mind, Eminem already broke these records with shit.
Yes.
And then it broke even more records.
Yeah.
Because that many people still care about Eminem. I mean, he's so big. He got Logic songs now. He's got all these little Joyner tracks and stuff going on. Eminem's tapping into the little M&Ms and playing with them.
Yes, I mean, he's still killing it. I think he's just making a lot. He's just stirring the pot.
You know what? We're
he
having a good
does.
review. I don't want to talk about the moves that he's doing these days. They're not my favorite. Whatever. Lucky You is trash. I'm just going to say it. No, I said that wrong. I'm not going to lie. I like Lucky You. I listened to that. I meant to say Homicide. I think Homicide is an overbloated song that doesn't bring to the table what we're getting in fucking Medicine Ball with Christopher Reeve's creativity and shit, right?
Yeah.
Like, all things considered, in 2019, this Christopher Reeves bit is just comedic funniness. Like, it actually kind of translates well because it's satirizing how upset people were to the point where, like, this ghost of Christopher Reeves is coming back to haunt him, which makes a good point. Why were people that obsessed about Eminem making these jokes? That's stupid. But we made Eminem, right? Mm-hmm. So now we can take and point the shots at him too, a little bit. Just throwing it out there. Maybe it's part of it all. Either way, it's an okay song. I think it fits into the narrative. He's just kind of contextualizing a little bit why he treated people the way he did, mixed with this is the thing to do. And now we end up like, it's my therapy. Yo, relax. Why are you all so sensitive, you know? Mm-hmm. I never meant this rhyme to be so offensive. If you weren't so defensive, it wouldn't be. You're so sensitive. That's like true shit, man. If you think about it, like one of the things me and the little Josh kid go back and forth because he's like 19 and he's in Scotland, so it's interesting to talk to somebody from there. But it's about what's appropriate or how sensitive people are these days. And there's the censorship line moves and stuff. And there's this little battle being going on right now. And there is an argument to be made that if the world wasn't so sensitive, well, maybe something like an Eminem wouldn't be offensive and you could get the joke of what he's trying to do.
But would he not be so successful if the world was so not sensitive?
I don't think he would have been as angry enough to get to where he was. But in light of it all, like, it wouldn't have been an issue, and maybe we all would have praised him in a different way and not called him controversial. We would have just called him brilliant. You know?
Yeah.
Maybe the tone would have changed, and he wouldn't have turned to hard drugs and things like that. Anyway, I kind of ended up liking the song more than I thought I would at first. I give it a 4.25 on 5. It's really like the beat is
Yeah.
It's not a strong beat. That's really what it came down to. Once I got into the lyrics and the rhymes, it's pretty good. The beat, I could live without it.
Okay. I mean, I kind of agree. I mean, it's very much not necessarily his usual sound. It sounds a little bit more like techno-ish. And for me, like, I mean, you tend to get a lot more out of this, but for me, like, I didn't really find there was much great about the song at all. Like, I just found it, like, hard. Like, it just seemed, like, difficult to be able to be bothered to pay attention to it, like, as it was playing, like, to pay attention lyrically to what's going on. So, like, I listened to it a few times and I was like, just kept getting, like, not focused to this song. So there was something about it that just didn't, like, draw my attention. And although the clapping along is good, I always appreciate when there's, like, kind of like a clap along sound to it. Overall, it doesn't really work for me. Still has like this, like the same sort of general Eminem feeling to it, but I don't really like it. And I just found like the whole Christopher Reeve skit thing that kind of happens at the end, just like weird, don't care. Like, why are you referencing him? Like, it just, I mean, whatever. For me, like, it just didn't really seem like anything was going on with this song. And that's it. I gave it a 3 on 5.
But now you know there was more going on to the song, and it's worth more than a 3 on 5, but that's okay. So typically, we would be doing...
I mean, does it change the sound of the song? Not really.
No.
Does it change the general message?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, but does it still hold today?
Yeah, more. I think the song holds up more today in light of everything else. This is one of those times where the dated offensive references almost are the point. So
I
it
guess.
kind of holds... In this one example, I would say, yes, this one time, it kind of holds up today. And I would agree that the rest of it, no. So while you might be expecting me to talk about how the next song on the album is a skit by the name of Paul or something, it's over like 2 hours. And we're halfway
gonna call
through.
it quits on this one.
So like we'll call this the end of part 1, and we're gonna go record the rest of it tomorrow, which would hopefully mean that the next one comes out the following day when you see this. And then don't worry, there's gonna be a spoiler at the end of this one, but well, you know, maybe a 4-hour video it's better to split it into 2.
Yeah.
But we're gonna also have a part 3 because there were the 9 tracks that got released on Refill. So this week you can expect to see 3 separate Eminem videos related to this album drop from us. So this is just part 1. Thank y'all for being here with us. I know that this is only half the story. That
Yep.
means the rest of the story
We'll
is still
get there.
coming. So we'll wrap that up, and then yeah, we appreciate you being here. I look forward to seeing your comments. I would love to hear what you have to think about it. You know, keep in mind we are going to get to the second half and connect the whole story together, because it is, again, Paul's skit is a pivotal turning point where the tone shifts towards the next chapter. So it's a good place to end it here. And yeah, so if you do make that effort to respond in the comments, we'll make that effort to talk to you. And special thanks to the patrons: Ismail Gadamsi, Chris Prado, Jonathan Barnes, DJ Black Hurricanes, and Lindell Williams. They support what we do. They helped us get a new camera. They get to request reviews and shit like that. So if you want to support us and help us get to that next level, from $1 a month or more, you can support that shit, and one day we can have nicer stuff on the walls and things like that. But we know you hit play and go do some other shit.
Yeah.
I digress.
Fair enough.
Fair enough. It's long. But yeah, so we'll finish that up tomorrow. And thanks for being with us. We look forward to having you come back. Peace.
Bye, guys.